I started by beating up the little fairy, and I became a hot topic. I was studying in the library, but a little fairy made up a story out of nothing, used a blank piece of paper to occupy my seat, and even beat me up. Jiang Xia, can I spoil her? I'll just go up and make a big bag. So Jiang Xia became famous, and with the help of the system, he became an internet mouthpiece, a role model for my generation, and the bravest man on earth. Chapter 1: A blank sheet of paper wants to claim a seat. Sunday, Yangcheng University. Early in the morning, Jiang Xia arrived at the library's study room with his backpack. He found an empty seat, sat down, and took out his notebook to start coding. He was majoring in the Internet of Things engineering, and as he was in the second semester of his senior year, his graduation project couldn't be delayed any longer. With just 1 week left before the midterm review, he needed to make up for lost time and catch up with the progress. As time passed, more and more people came to the library, and the study room quickly filled up. Everyone was quiet, with only the sound of pages turning and pens scratching on paper. Occasionally, someone would cough, but it was always restrained. Jiang Xia was typing furiously on his keyboard when suddenly, a shadow loomed over him. Before he could react, a bag slammed onto the table with a loud thud, nearly knocking his notebook off the table. Startled, he looked up and saw a girl he didn't recognize glaring at him from above. She was about 1.6 meters tall, with an average appearance, wearing black-rimmed glasses, the type of person who would be hard to notice in a crowd. Jiang Xia glanced around, and many people were now looking at them after the noise. He lowered his voice and asked patiently, "Is there a problem?" The girl, still with a stern face, said, "This is my seat." "Who told you to take my spot?" Her voice was loud, attracting even more attention, disregarding the fact that it was a library, a place where noise was prohibited. Jiang Xia couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. Had he really run into someone trying to claim a seat like this? "Classmate, this is a library study room, not a classroom. The seat goes to whoever arrives first." Even in a classroom, there wouldn't be assigned seats in college like in middle or high school. In university, whether it's a class or a study session, the seats are first come, first served. There's no such thing as a seat belonging to someone. But clearly, the girl didn't think so. "I reserved this seat yesterday. I even left a piece of paper on it saying this seat is taken. Are you blind?" Jiang Xia frowned. "Classmate, please speak properly. When I came in, the desk was empty, and I didn't see the paper you mentioned. If you have an issue, you can report it to the library staff." The girl stood still, her tone rising. Her eyes, wide like copper bells, stared at him. "Who's not speaking properly? You took my seat first, and now you're in the right. I clearly left a piece of paper here. You must have thrown it away and now you're pretending you didn't see it." By now, some of the surrounding students couldn't stand it anymore. A brave voice spoke out, "Hey, lower your voice. If you have something to say, go outside, don't disturb everyone's study." The girl quickly glared at the source of the voice, fiercely retorting, "Who said that? Who said that? Why didn't you speak up when he took my seat? Just because I'm a girl, you think it's okay to bully me? Mind your own business." The brave student stood up angrily. "You're the one disturbing everyone. Why can't I say anything?" The girl didn't back down. "Then let him get up. As long as he gives me my seat back, I'll shut up right now. You two handle your own problems, but you can't make the whole study room suffer just because of this, right? Mind your own business. Stop acting like a big shot. Who do you think you are? You?" The brave student was so angry his face turned red. The surrounding students quickly grabbed him and pulled him back down, fearing he might act on impulse. The girl stood there triumphantly, like a rooster that had won a fight, glaring down at Jiang Xia. "Will you give it up or not? A grown man, can't you have some decency?" Jiang Xia was both angry and amused. This was truly unbelievable. He never thought he'd encounter such a person in university. It was absurd. She was the one who came late, trying to steal a seat and causing a ruckus in the study room, and now she was accusing him of being uncivilized. At this point, his stubbornness flared up. If she had spoken calmly at the beginning, he would have given up the seat without much thought. After all, it was just a seat. He could have gone back to the dorm and coded there, no big deal if the environment was noisy. But now, with her attitude, he couldn't accept it. This kind of seat-claiming issue was always a matter of who got there first, and using a bag, textbook, or earphones to claim a seat was one thing, but using a piece of paper. Was she out of her mind? Moreover, when he arrived and sat down, he hadn't seen any paper. With that thought in mind, Jiang Xia crossed his arms and settled back into his seat. I'll say it again. If you think this seat belongs to you, feel free to report it to the librarian. You say you left a paper. You can check the surveillance footage. If the library staff can prove this seat is yours, I'll leave without a word. The girl glared at him for a long time, then sneered. Fine, you won't let me, huh? Suddenly, she grabbed Jiang Xia's notebook, raised it above her head, and threw it forcefully onto the ground. Smash! The screen of the notebook shattered instantly. Jiang Xia was in shock. He couldn't believe she would dare to smash his laptop right in front of him. By the time he wanted to stop her, it was too late. The only thought in his mind was, is this person insane? The study room was in shock. Everyone was stunned by her actions. What a ruthless person. A few thousand yuan worth of equipment, just thrown to the ground without a second thought. Which family raised this girl? Jiang Xia stood up in fury. Are you crazy? The girl didn't hesitate. She grabbed him by the chest and yanked him away from the seat. You're the crazy one. Your whole family is crazy. Who told you to take my seat? Get out, this seat is mine. The surrounding students quickly stood up and moved away, not wanting to get involved. Jiang Xia was furious, grinding his teeth. He wanted to hit her, but then he realized the consequences of doing so he held back. It wasn't worth it over something so trivial. Let go. He grabbed her hand and pushed it backward. The girl staggered a few steps, but instead of stopping, she escalated things, reaching out her sharp nails to swipe at his face while screaming loudly. Help! He hit me. Someone call security. Jiang Xia was furious. This was classic deflection. She was the one who started by smashing his laptop and charging at him, yet she turned herself into the victim. In the chaos, he couldn't react fast enough and was scratched across the face, feeling a sharp sting of pain. At that moment, his anger hit its peak. He wanted nothing more than to give the girl a powerful punch, sending her to Buddha to repent. Maybe, somewhere in the universe, someone heard his wish, because the next moment, a strange voice suddenly rang in his ears. Beep. Host's emotional fluctuation has reached a critical point. The no-regret system has been activated. This system aims to help the host act in accordance with their deepest desires. Faced with the current situation, you have three choices. 1. Let it go, give up the seat and run away, earning the title, defeated dog. You will feel mentally exhausted and lack appetite for a week, with all stats halved. 2. Fight fire with fire, cause a scene, and earn the title, shattered reputation. Your reputation will drop to 0. 3. Give her a slap, deliver justice with an iron fist. You will gain the skill, mountain-piercing slap, which causes no physical damage but redirects the hit, inflicting 10 days of mental torment. You will earn 10 points upon completion. Chapter 2, The Little Fairy Called the Police. Who is speaking? Jiang Xia thought it was a hallucination brought on by his anger, and didn't react right away. The next moment, the glasses-wearing girl's 9 white bone claws came crashing down toward his face. Are you done yet? Seeing that his face was about to be scratched, Jiang Xia instinctively shouted in his mind, I choose 3. In an instant, a strange force took control of his right hand. After blocking the glasses girl's claws, he slapped her face with a backhand. Slap. The crisp sound echoed in the study room, lingering for a long time. The glasses girl staggered back 2 steps, holding her cheek, her eyes dazed, completely stunned by the slap. The onlookers were equally speechless, staring at Jiang Xia with shock in their eyes. Damn. This guy is tough. That slap probably cost her a few thousand, right? Impulsive. Too impulsive. But damn, it feels so satisfying. After delivering the slap, Jiang Xia was also startled. Oh no, did I really just slap her? Isn't this going to cost me my pants? Drip, drip. Time passed second by second. The glasses girl slowly turned her head, her eyes bloodshot, her gaze intense as though she wanted to eat him alive. She fixed her stare on Jiang Xia. You dare hit me, I'll make you regret it. Looking at the glasses girl's cheek, Jiang Xia was suddenly curious. Strange, that slap felt pretty hard just now, but there isn't even a red mark on her face. Was that sound not an illusion? Did that strike from a distance actually work? The glasses girl, still enraged, was about to charge at him again, but a few students stepped forward to stop her, pulling the two apart. She stomped her feet in anger, cursing at the two girls holding her back. Let go of me. Why didn't you stop him when he slapped me? Get out of here. You're all a bunch of bitches. The two girls' faces turned pale, wishing they could rip her mouth off. Is this woman crazy? She attacks everyone. Didn't she seem so innocent when she was clawing at my face earlier? After a while of throwing a tantrum, the glasses girl came up with a new plan. Wait here. You're dead for hitting me. Her expression suddenly shifted, and with teary eyes, she took out her phone and dialed the police. Hello? 110. I want to report a crime. Someone slapped me. Yes, I'm on the third floor of the study room in Yangcheng University Library. Send someone here right now. After hanging up, she pointed at Jiang Xia and cursed, if you're a man, then stand there and don't run. I've already called the police, and you're going to jail. Jiang Xia stood there, calm and unbothered, curling his lips slightly, not at all flustered. The police? Perfect. Let us see what the officers say and who gets arrested. A boy standing in front of him whispered, regret evident in his tone, dude, it's not worth fighting over someone like her. Even if we testify for you, you might end up with mutual fighting charges. Another boy chimed in, yeah, you should just endured it instead of fighting back. Jiang Xia gave a faint smile. Thanks, but what is there to fear? I've got a few scratches on my face. TSK, bro, you're really brave, the boy said, shaking his head in admiration. The police station was not far from Yangcheng University, and before long, two officers arrived on the scene, accompanied by a librarian who had rushed over when she heard about the situation. What happened? Who called the police? Asked the older officer, around 50 years old, with a square face and a dignified air. The glasses girl immediately raised her hand and pointed at Jiang Xia. I did. He slapped me across the face just now. You need to arrest him. The older officer squinted at her face for a moment, then turned to Jiang Xia. Is what she said true? Jiang Xia innocently replied, she rushed at me like a madwoman, scratching and hitting me. I only defended myself, and in the process, I accidentally hit her. Look, these scratches on my face are from her claws. The glasses girl glared at him and shouted, accidentally. You call that a slap an accident? Don't try to deny it. Everyone here saw it. They are all my witnesses. She hurried over to a nearby girl and grabbed her, tell them, didn't he slap me just now? The girl, startled, hesitated and mumbled, I don't know. I just arrived. The glasses girl let go of her and turned to another boy nearby. You were sitting right next to me, tell them. The boy rolled his eyes and looked up at the sky. No glasses, I'm blind. You. The glasses girl fumed and stomped back to the officers, pointing at the security camera above them. There's a camera here, you can just check the footage. All right, calm down, the older officer raised his hand, signaling for her to back off. What is your name, student? The glasses girl, fuming, spat out, Pang Xiaohuan. The officer asked, Pang Xiaohuan, you said this student slapped you. Which side of your face did he hit? Pang Xiaohuan raised her hand to point at her left cheek, but paused halfway, confused. Her gaze wandered before she changed and pointed at her right cheek. This side. The officer studied her face for a moment and then asked, are you sure? Because I don't see any marks on your face, it doesn't look like someone slapped you. Pang Xiaohuan fumed, how could there be no marks? It hurts so much, I feel like my cheek is at least 10 centimeters swollen. Are you blind? How can you not see something so obvious? The officer furrowed his brows. You, young lady, better mind your language. There's nothing on your face, it's neither red nor swollen. If you don't believe me, look in a mirror. No swelling? Impossible. Pang Xiaohuan pulled out her phone and checked her reflection in the screen, suddenly freezing. How? How is this possible? In the reflection, there wasn't a single sign of a slap on her face. But the sharp, burning pain in her cheek made her feel as if it was swollen by 10 centimeters. The dissonance between what she saw and what she felt left her brain frozen, standing there completely stunned. At that moment, Jiang Xia, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Officer, she's fine. I'm the one who got hurt. Not only did she scratch my face, but she also smashed my laptop worth over 8,000. How do you think we should settle this?" When it came to damaged property, the older officer's expression grew more serious. He glanced at the broken laptop on the ground before turning to Pang Xiaowan. "Is what he said true?" Pang Xiaowan turned her head away. Didn't he smash it? He knocked it over himself." From the crowd of onlookers, someone shouted, "She did. We all saw it." Pang Xiaowan's eyes turned red, and she spun around to yell at the crowd, "What's it to you? Shut your mouths. None of you spoke up when you should be. Now you're all helping him, huh? You're all in this together, ganging up on me." Chapter 3, Pang Xiaowan's doubts about life. As Pang Xiaowan seemed about to start another big scene, the old police officer frowned. Enough. Stop shouting. Whether it's true or not, we can check the surveillance footage." Pang Xiaowan's face changed slightly. She glared at Jiang Xia and snarled, "Fine, check it. You're the one who hit me, you can't escape." The group left the study room and went to the surveillance room. With the help of the staff, the two police officers and the duty teacher watched the footage and quickly understood the entire sequence of events. The old officer frowned at Pang Xiaowan. "The footage clearly shows that you made the first move, and you deliberately broke someone's computer. Can you admit that?" Pang Xiaowan stiffened her neck. "I didn't make the first move. He was sitting in my seat and wouldn't leave. I was just trying to pull him up. And I didn't break his stuff, I was just scaring him, my hand slipped." "What about him slapping me? Did you all see that?" Jiang Xia snorted. "If I didn't fight back, you'd have scratched my face up." "Officer, does this count as self-defense?" "Self-defense my ass. You're intentionally hurting." Pang Xiaowan snapped back, her eyes wide. The old police officer's expression darkened. "Enough. Shut up." Pang Xiaowan reluctantly stopped talking. "I'm telling you to." The old officer's gaze swept between them, his tone serious. "You're both college students, future pillars of the country. Is it really necessary to make such a big deal over something so trivial? Fighting over a seat until you're all beaten up, isn't that ridiculous? I don't think it's such a serious matter. It's just a little misunderstanding between classmates, no need to make it ugly. Just apologize to each other, shake hands, and move on. Continuing to argue won't benefit either of you." Jiang Xia had already achieved his goal with that slap. It should be enough to teach this person a lesson. He could back off now. "Since you say so, as long as she compensates me for my notebook, I won't pursue the matter." As soon as Pang Xiaowan heard Jiang Xia wanted her to pay for it, she immediately refused. "Why should I pay? If you didn't take my seat and wouldn't leave, would I have touched your stuff? You want to extort me, but it's not happening." Jiang Xia was speechless. "You broke my stuff and now you're accusing me of extorting you? You really have no sense of reason." Pang Xiaowan covered her right cheek and shouted, "Then I want you to pay for my medical bills and compensation for mental anguish. I want to get an injury report. My face is burning and hurting like a needle piercing. Officer, I need an injury report." The two police officers and the duty teacher exchanged looks, silently shaking their heads. When it came to compensation, mediation became more troublesome. The old officer sighed helplessly. "Are you sure you don't want to settle now?" Pang Xiaowan covered her face and put on a painful expression. "I won't settle." "All right." The old officer nodded. "Then come with me." The duty teacher hesitated, then sighed and said nothing. 2 hours later, at the Yancheng Judicial Appraisal Center. Pang Xiaowan looked at her injury report, dumbfounded. "No injuries. How is that possible? My face hurts so much, and you're saying there's nothing wrong? Do you even know how to do an appraisal?" The physician who did the appraisal had a neutral expression. "If you disagree with the results, you can go somewhere else for another test. Even if you do it 100 times, you still won't have any injuries." Feeling the sharp pain on her face, Pang Xiaowan refused to accept it, convinced the results were fake. The old officer had no choice but to take her to another appraisal center for a re-test. The result was the same as the first one, no injury. At this point, Pang Xiaowan completely broke down. She was in so much pain but couldn't prove anything. she almost doubted life itself. I don't accept this. It's fake. You must be in cahoots to trick me. She suddenly turned to Jiang Xia, her eyes full of malice, and rushed toward him, grabbing his collar. Tell me. Are you having some improper relationship with them? Did you guys set this up? Jiang Xia looked at the old officer, shrugging his hands, silently asking, aren't you going to do something about this? The old officer furrowed his brow and stepped forward to pull Pang Xiaowan away. Enough. You dare make trouble in front of the police. Let me tell you, you have no injuries, but he has a minor injury. If you keep causing trouble, you're going to be detained. Pang Xiaowan trembled with anger. The appraisal results are fake. Once isn't he accurate, does that mean twice isn't he either? Now, you have two choices, either apologize to him and make peace, or pay compensation and face detention. The decision is yours. Pang Xiaowan, apologize to him? Dream on. The old officer stopped trying to persuade her. He grabbed her arm and started pulling her outside. All right, let us go back to the station and see how many days you'll be detained. When Pang Xiaowan saw the old officer was serious, she immediately panicked. Her fierce attitude deflated, and after struggling unsuccessfully, she quickly shouted, wait. Hold on. The old officer stopped and let go of her. Pang Xiaowan glanced at the old officer, then at Jiang Xia, gritting her teeth. Fine, you just want to extort me for money, right? I'll give it to you. Are you happy now? At this point, Jiang Xia was too tired to argue. This woman's thinking wasn't normal, like she had a persecution complex. She was clearly at fault, but she acted as if the whole world was against her, persecuting her. It was completely unreasonable. Classmate, I suggest you be polite. If I don't accept your apology, you'll still be detained. Do you understand? Pang Xiaowan glared at him with red eyes, silent, her teeth clenched in hatred. Things became much simpler after that. Jiang Xia presented the e-receipt for the notebook he bought, along with the medical expenses for his injuries, totaling over 8,600 yuan, which Pang Xiaowan was responsible for paying. Pang Xiaowan didn't have enough money in her account, so she could only pay 3,000 yuan first, with the remaining balance to be cleared within 3 days. After the mediation was completed, Pang Xiaowan didn't stay in the station for a second longer. She stormed off with a dark face. When she walked out of the station, she glanced back at the door, and a deep hatred flashed in her eyes. Jiang Xia, I won't forget this. Just wait, it's not over. I'll expose you online and make you and that old man who's covering for you the laughingstock of everyone. On their way back to school in a taxi, Pang Xiaowan took out her phone, writing a long, tear-filled post full of grievances. She immediately posted it on various online platforms. Worried her post wouldn't get attention, she even created multiple fake accounts to support her own post. Soon, Pang Xiaowan's complaint received more and more responses, and the number of views skyrocketed to over 10,000, continuing to grow rapidly. Looking at the screen, the gloom on Pang Xiaowan's face disappeared, and she couldn't help but smile wickedly. Chapter 4. Did the counselor also come to fight? On the other side, after finishing lunch, Jiang Xia returned to the dormitory, only to find that his roommates were nowhere to be seen, likely out playing basketball or on dates. He dropped his backpack, lay down on his bed, and just as he was about to relax, a delayed system notification sounded in his ear. Ding! Task completed. You have earned 10 points. The attribute panel is now open. You may use the points to increase your attributes at a 100:1 ratio, or exchange them for an equivalent amount of currency at a 1:100 ratio. 1:100? Exchange for money. Jiang Xia was stunned, his mouth hanging open for a while as he silently muttered, attribute panel. Swish. A light blue dialog box popped up in front of him, displaying a few lines of information. Jiang Xia. Physique, 7. Your body is fairly healthy. Mentality, 6. Your intelligence is average. Charm, 3. People won't even look twice at you. Reputation, 2. Unknown. Skill, punch through mountains. Title, none. Looking at the concise attribute panel, Jiang Xia clenched his fists and swung them a few times in the air. It really is a system. This is incredible. Could it be that he had the qualities of a protagonist? However, these attributes and descriptions were a bit painful. Physique and mentality were fine, reputation was understandable, but charm only at 3. That was a bit insulting. He definitely needed to pump up his charm. Excited for a moment, Jiang Xia shifted his attention to another feature of the system: S points. Points could not only be used to increase attributes, but could also be exchanged for money. 10 points equaled 1,000 yuan. This meant that he had earned 1,000 yuan today without doing anything. Oh, wait, not nothing. His face had been scratched a few times, and it hurt quite a bit. Closing the attribute panel, Jiang Xia didn't rush to use the 10 points but instead recalled something else. Since his junior year, he'd been thinking about renting a place off campus, but with his empty wallet, it had stayed as just an idea. Now with the system, as long as he kept completing tasks, he could earn points to exchange for real money. This idea might finally have a chance to come true. Just as Jiang Xia was mulling over this, ding dong. His phone rang. He picked it up and saw a message from the counselor. "Where are you? Come to my office." Without a doubt, Jiang Xia knew what it was about. The counselor must have heard about the incident in the library and wanted to have a word with him. He grabbed his jacket and quickly left the dorm. 20 minutes later, Jiang Xia knocked on the counselor's office door. "Come in." He pushed the door open, and the office was quiet, with only the counselor, Hu Shui, sitting behind a desk in the corner, writing something. He walked over. "Counselor, did you need me?" Hu Shui looked up, staring at him blankly for a few seconds before speaking. "Did you hit someone in the library?" Jiang Xia immediately sensed that her tone was off and quickly explained, "It's like this, a girl came in late, and said I was sitting in her seat. She scratched my face and even threw my notebook. Counselor, look, there's still blood on my face." Hu Shui sneered, "But I heard you slapped her in front of everyone." "Yes, I slapped her once, but..." Bang! Before he could finish, Hu Shui slammed her hand on the desk, raising an eyebrow in anger. "You still dare to argue? What's there to say? Slapping a girl in front of so many people, what do you think the library is? You've gone too far. What does she mean by, what do you think the library is?" Facing Hu Shui's aggressive tone, Jiang Xia immediately had a bad feeling. "Counselor, please listen to me. Don't talk nonsense." Hu Shui interrupted him, her eyes full of disgust. "Listen, you need to go find that student and apologize to her. Try to get her forgiveness. If this blows up, it'll make our whole department and school lose face. You won't even think about graduating, you'll be expelled." Jiang Xia's heart sank completely. He never imagined that, even though he was in the right, the counselor would call him in and instead of asking for his side of the story, she'd just scold him and demand an apology. He remained silent for a moment before asking, "Why should I apologize? Do you even know who's right and who's wrong in this matter?" Hu Shui's eyes turned cold, her tone firm. "No matter who's right or wrong, it's wrong to hit someone. Do I really need to teach you this? So it's wrong for me to hit her, but it's okay for her to hit me first." Hu Shui gave a cold laugh, seeming utterly speechless. "You're a grown man, and you're picking a fight with a little girl? No matter who hit first, it's wrong, but as a man, you don't even have the basic gentlemanly conduct. You think it's impressive to hit a girl? Do you think bullying a girl makes you look good? She scratched you, that's wrong. But have you thought about how much psychological damage it might cause her to be slapped in front of everyone? You're a grown man, what's the big deal if you get a scratch? You just had to escalate things, right?" Jiang Xia opened his mouth but couldn't he find the words. Today was really bizarre. He had just sent off a little fairy and now faced a female fighter. Why hadn't he noticed the counselor had this attribute before? Ding! Detecting significant emotional fluctuations. You are facing a dilemma. You have two options. 1. Submit, apologize, and get the title of swallowing your pride. Your charm will decrease by 1. 2. Stand your ground and refuse to apologize. No matter what, you were right. You will gain the skill hidden microphone, which can record audio at any time. Completing this will earn 10 points. Jiang Xia's eyelids twitched. Option 1 would reduce his charm by 1. He only had a pitiful 3 points to begin with, no way he was doing that. It looked like there was only one path to take. Seeing Jiang Xia remain silent, Hu Shui coldly said, "Don't think that apologizing is a humiliation. I'm doing this for your own good. You're already in your senior year." Jiang Xia took a deep breath, and slowly but firmly interrupted her, "I want to apologize." Hu Shui's expression immediately stiffened. "Why are you so stubborn?" Jiang Xia continued, "From the beginning, the fault was with that Pang Xiaohuan. She was the one who attacked me first, she was the one who hurt me, she was the one who threw things. What do you mean by saying I'm trying to make things worse? I've already been tolerant enough from the start. It's her who kept provoking me, and when I finally fought back, it's all my fault. Is it only a girl's face that matters? Does a guy's face not count? Is it only a girl who gets psychological trauma from being hit, but a guy has to endure getting his face scratched in public? What kind of reasoning is this? This could have been a simple misunderstanding, but why do you insist on bringing gender into it? What does her gender and my gender have to do with this? Does wrongdoing depend on gender? I don't understand why you keep emphasizing that she's a girl. Does being a girl give her a free pass? Chapter 5, it got posted online. Hu Shui's face turned ugly. I didn't say that. Yes, you didn't say it, but didn't you imply it with what you said? If I were a girl, would you still have asked me to apologize without even asking for the details? At this point, Hu Shui's face was as black as the bottom of a pot, and her tone became stern. Jiang Xia. Watch your words. Do you know who you're talking to? It looks like you want to go too far. Jiang Xia fired back, not backing down one bit. So because you didn't bother to ask for the truth, I'm not allowed to defend myself. You're talking to a teacher right now. Is this how you were raised? I'm just stating the facts. Hu Shui was so furious her eyes twitched, and with a loud bang, she slammed her fist on the table, pointing at Jiang Xia's nose. Listen here, Jiang Xia. Today, not only do you have to apologize to that girl, but you also need to write me a 5,000-word self-criticism letter to apologize for your attitude. Otherwise, pack up and get out. Let me see if I can't deal with you. Jiang Xia stared at her silently for 2 seconds, then sneered. Fine, do as you wish. With that, he turned and left. Stop. What kind of attitude is this? Stop right there. Hu Shui's enraged shouts faded as he walked out of the office, slowly becoming inaudible. Outside the office building, Jiang Xia deactivated his invisible microphone skill, and the system automatically generated a recording file, placing it in the corner of his panel. He didn't take Hu Shui's threats seriously. If she kept on pestering him with this recording, he wasn't worried about her slandering him to the school. Beep. Task completed, received 10 points as a reward. Hearing the system's prompt, Jiang Xia's gloomy mood lifted a little. Another 1,000 yuan in the bank. Back at the dorm, it was still empty. Jiang Xia lay down on his bed, took out his phone, and was about to browse rental listings near the school when he suddenly noticed a lot of comments on his Weibo account. He sat up quickly, looking at the flood of messages popping up, a bit shocked. Violent man, go die. This is the true face of men. Everyone, destroy his account. Can someone who hits women just take their household registration book and die already? Jiang Xia scrolled down. Wow, there were 300 or 400 comments, all of them cursing him out. Was he being cyberbullied? Without needing to think, Jiang Xia immediately guessed what had happened. A bit of digging, and sure enough, he found the source of these insults, a post titled, "The slap I received from a male student in the library, I had to apologize in the end." The poster, named Sunny Strawberry Candy, described in the first person how a weak girl was slapped by a male student in the library after trying to argue over seat taking, how the police didn't give justice, and instead, she was asked to apologize and compensate. The post ended with, "As a girl, I don't know how many more similar things I'll face in life. I don't know if every time I stand up for my dignity and rights, I'll get such a cold and heartbreaking result. I don't know how they did it, but my right cheek still hurts, like 1,000 needles poking through. The forensic report says I wasn't hurt, and I suspect I'm going crazy." Reading this, Jiang Xia couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Who would have thought that Pang Xiaohuan was such a master? The whole post didn't use a single curse word or insult outright, but it subtly conveyed a sense of grievance, despair, and unwillingness. It made people sympathize, urging them to step in and fight for justice. In her version of the story, Jiang Xia was portrayed as a domineering, unreasonable man who resorted to violence, and it even hinted that Jiang Xia had colluded with the police to alter the forensic results. The intent was clear, it was just shy of writing the word collusion on the page. This carefully crafted narrative was far more powerful than just directly insulting Jiang Xia. It could evoke public empathy and make uninformed readers believe they had seen the truth, motivating them to cheer for Pang Xiaohuan. Impressive, truly impressive. This idiot, doesn't she know defamation is also illegal? Jiang Xia was both angry and amused. How could so many people believe such a distorted version of the story? Netizens really are so gullible. As he watched his comments section being overrun, Jiang Xia quickly pinned a post. To those who came here to bash me, please use your brains and understand the truth before speaking. Don't let yourself be used as a pawn and then feel proud of it. Ding 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 ding. As soon as the post was made, dozens of comments poured in. Men who hit women should be wiped out. Wow, so impressive, use your connections to arrest me too. Your mother. If I keep watching indifferently today, who will cheer for me tomorrow? Family, don't stop. Jiang Xia frowned as he read through them, shaking his head. He closed Weibo and disabled pop-up notifications, choosing to ignore them entirely. Dealing with these bored idiots who turn into self-righteous warriors at the slightest provocation only gives them more satisfaction. The more you engage, the more they enjoy it only fuels their fire. Just then, ding dong ding dong. His Douyin notifications rang again. Jiang Xia's face darkened. No way. He opened Douyin, and private messages came pouring in one after another. The content was even more vulgar and direct than on Weibo, full of offensive language. With a darkened face, Jiang Xia closed Douyin as well, muttering to himself, "It's not worth getting angry over these idiots, not worth it." Ding dong ding dong. The sound of new friend requests from QQ rang again, all from female avatars, with accompanying messages full of insults. Jiang Xia had no choice but to close the QQ and WeChat friend requests, feeling as disgusted as if he'd eaten rat poison. Pang Xiaohuan, does she really not know how to write lore? Beep. Host's inner frustration detected, please choose. Option 1, endure, stay calm, and wait for the fools to quiet down on their own without responding. You'll gain the title, Ninja Turtle, and lose 5 charm points. Option 2, the truth must not be twisted. Fight back, expose the truth, and bring the slanderer to justice. Complete the task and gain 50 points, plus 1 reputation. 50 points. Jiang Xia's breath became heavy. This was 5,000 yuan. Forget about the plus 1 reputation, he barely even noticed that part. He immediately jumped off his bed, clenched his fists, and his eyes became determined. Pang Xiaohuan, you asked for it. Now that it's come to this, don't blame me for not considering our school connection. You brought this on yourself. Chapter 6, Live Confrontation. The next afternoon, in the girls' dormitory. After a day of fermentation, Pang Xiaohuan's essay has received an astonishing 100,000 plus views on major platforms, and has received over 10,000 comments. This unprecedented level of attention made Pang Xiaohuan taste the sweetness. She was deeply intoxicated by the cheers of countless sisters. She even skipped classes and started a Douyin live broadcast in her dormitory alone. In her opinion, discrediting Jiang Xia and the policeman who favored him and venting her anger was just the first step. What she really wanted was to use public opinion to make Jiang Xia surrender, apologize to her, and even waive the remaining 5,000 yuan in compensation. Of course, it would be a pleasant surprise if you could take this opportunity to attract some attention and turn yourself into a small internet celebrity. Isn't this kind of thing common on the internet? No matter how it becomes popular, as long as there is popularity, it can bring profits. Not long after the live broadcast room was opened, the number of viewers exceeded 1,000. Most of the users are female, and there are also some students from Yancheng University. Jimei, what happened? Did that man apologize to you? Resist violent men. Stand firm, sisters. Your school has this kind of scumbag, is there no one to take care of him? At Yancheng University. Pang Xiaohuan looked at the rapidly refreshing barrage of comments, and a hint of satisfaction flashed in the depths of her eyes. Okay, great, that's it. All public opinion is on her side. If we add more fuel to the fire, I don't believe that Jiang Xia will be able to remain calm and act like a coward. Thinking of this, she squeezed her eyes hard to make her eyes look redder, raised her hand to cover the right side of her face, and put on an aggrieved expression. Family members, a day has passed and the abuser still hasn't shown up. I don't know when I will get the apology I deserve. That's true. After all, I'm just a female college student with nothing. I have no background or connections. I can't afford to hire the police to help me make false evidence. Why would they care about my voice? They say that if you have any problems, you should call the police. But who knows that they are wearing the same pants as me? I was the one who was beaten, but they asked me to pay compensation. I want to ask, is there still justice? More than 8,000 yuan is my living expenses for nearly a year. My family is very poor, and I dare not tell my father about this. More than 8,000 yuan, how much hardship does he have to endure on the construction site to earn it? Wow, what should I do? Pang Xiaowan became more and more immersed in the play as she spoke, and in the end she even believed it herself. Coupled with the severe pain on her right cheek from time to time, she actually squeezed out a few tears, and the live broadcast effect was maximized. For a moment, the comment section exploded, and the live broadcast room was filled with comments comforting her and denouncing Jiang Xia and the police officers handling the case. Police and criminals collude and must be severely punished. Jiang Xia does not admit his guilt, everyone here is responsible. I'm so angry. How can this still happen in 2023? We must not let him go. In the rapidly scrolling comments, there are also several different voices flashing. I was in the library yesterday, and the situation was not at all what she said. It was this woman who grabbed the guy's face first. Those of you who don't know the truth in the comments section, please stop getting excited, okay? The discordant voice soon attracted a lot of attacks, and the speaker was scolded. You know this now. Shut up, all men are bad. Man, get out of the live broadcast room. It's so disgusting that there are still people who speak up for violent men. Even dogs would shake their heads when they see this. At this moment, Pang Xiaowan suddenly received a request for a live connection. She took a glance and ignored it. A few seconds later, the other party sent another private message. I'm Jiang Xia. Just for short words made Pang Xiaowan's eyes suddenly light up. Jiang Xia wants to have a live broadcast with her. Very good. This is her home court now, and the audience in the live broadcast room are in high spirits. If Jiang Xia dares to enter the live broadcast room, it is like looking for death by holding a lantern in the toilet. The other party sent another request for a live connection. Pang Xiaowan cleared her throat and said to the audience in the live broadcast room, family members, the main person behind this matter, Jiang Xia, is going to connect with me. Let's see what he wants to say to me. The atmosphere in the comment area reached a climax. How dare this violent guy come to the microphone? Does he think we can't scold him to death? So arrogant. Hurry up, let me see what this beast looks like. Pang Xiaowan clicked to agree, and a figure appeared on the screen. It was indeed Jiang Xia. The background of Jiang Xia in the picture is also in the dormitory. He is wearing a simple white t-shirt. He looks ordinary and has a very calm expression. Oh! It really is the appearance of the shrimp-headed man. How dare you show your face when you look like this? The violent man should die. Jiang Xia didn't say a word before the comments section started to turn into a group, and they started with personal attacks. On the other side of the screen, in the boys' dormitory, Jiang Xia glanced at the rapidly scrolling comment section and ignored the dirty words. He looked at Pang Xiaowan on the screen and said calmly, Pang Xiaowan, you've been spreading rumors everywhere these past 2 days, accusing me of assaulting someone, and inciting netizens to attack my social media accounts. Are you crazy? Pang Xiaowan pretended to be excited and said, why, you are allowed to confuse right and wrong and extort money from people, but I am not allowed to cry out for injustice. Tell me honestly, when I said you beat me, was I wronging you? Jiang Xia said, don't talk nonsense. I was acting in self-defense and did not cause you any substantial harm. The appraisal center has already given the result. Here is a copy of the appraisal report, which can prove that what I said was true. After saying that, he picked up an A4 paper on the table, pointed the content on the paper towards the camera, and showed it to the audience in the live broadcast room. After deciding to launch a counterattack and make Pang Xiaowan suffer the consequences of her own actions, Jiang Xia did not act blindly. Instead, he first went to the library to ask a teacher for help and made a backup copy of the surveillance video. He then went to the police station to copy a copy of the injury assessment report and compensation mediation agreement of both parties. It was precisely because of these preparations that he waited a day before confronting Pang Xiaowan. Facing the injury assessment report written in black and white, Pang Xiaowan sneered, I have said it long ago, you and those policemen are in cahoots. You tampered with my assessment results and insisted that I was not injured. You used this to threaten and blackmail me. This certificate is not convincing at all. You yourself admitted that you did hit me. Jiang Xia put down the copy and said, I hit you because you were violating my personal safety at the time. This is the result of my injury assessment. It was a minor injury. If I hadn't defended myself at the time, you would have scratched my face and disfigured it. Pang Xiaohuan, don't exaggerate. I just pulled you a few times because you were occupying my seat and refused to leave. I reminded you several times in advance that the seat was mine, but you refused to leave. Couldn't I have pulled you up? You call that pulling? Jiang Xia stopped talking halfway, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing a meaningful smile. Pang Xiaohuan, since you insist that I hit you, your face must have hurt a lot. Does it still hurt now? Or do you feel nothing now? Wow. As soon as these words were spoken, the comment section exploded. That is too much. I can't stand him blatantly provoking the victim like this. Damn violent man. Shrimp-headed man. Go to hell now. Where's my sword? Bring me my 20-meter sword. Chapter 7, Jiang Xia's decisive blow. Faced with Jiang Xia's provocation, Pang Xiaohuan was not angry at all, but was very happy inside. She is not afraid of Jiang Xia's arrogance, but she is afraid that Jiang Xia will admit his mistake right away, which would make it difficult for her to perform well. Pang Xiaohuan covered her right face and said in a sad and angry tone, "What do you mean? Beating someone is not enough, you also want to kill him? Bullying a girl makes you feel accomplished. With the police backing you up, you can do whatever you want, right? I won't let you succeed." At this time, more and more people poured into the live broadcast room, and in the blink of an eye, the number exceeded 5,000. Everyone pointed their spearheads at Jiang Xia, and all kinds of insults and curses filled the screen, greeting all 18 generations of Jiang Xia's ancestors. Jiang Xia was calm and composed, his facial expression showing no change. "It's been so long, and you're still covering your right cheek. It looks like your right cheek is really painful." He smiled slightly, picked up another mobile phone on the table and operated it twice. "By the way, I have a surveillance video I copied from the library. Since you insist that I hurt you, we both have our own opinions and neither of us can convince the other. Why not let the audience in the live broadcast room watch the video with their own eyes and let them judge for themselves what happened at the time?" Pang Xiaohuan was not afraid at all. The audience in the live broadcast room had already determined that Jiang Xia was bullying others by taking advantage of his power. Even if the surveillance video was released, it would only prove that Jiang Xia did slap her in the face. As for other things, they will be dug out and made public sooner or later anyway, so she just needs to hold onto the fact that Jiang Xia beat people. Compared to the truth of the matter, netizens are definitely more interested in the fact that the attacker did not receive any punishment. As long as this is confirmed, she can conclude that Jiang Xia and the two policemen colluded with each other and distorted the facts. This is her killer move. Okay. If you have the guts, show the video to everyone and see who is lying. Jiang Xia pressed the play button and pointed the screen towards the camera. The surveillance video played silently, from Pang Xiaohuan entering the library and angrily slamming the table, to her quarreling with other students with a thick neck and breaking her laptop, to the two of them pushing and shoving, rushing up to scratch Jiang Xia's face, and being slapped by Jiang Xia and staggering back. "Right here. Right here. You still dare to say you didn't hit me?" Everyone in the live broadcast room saw it. It was clear as day. "You did hit me, you are the abuser." Pang Xiaohuan suddenly pointed at the camera and screamed excitedly, with excitement flashing in the depths of her pupils. Winner. This Jiang Xia was so stupid that he actually released the surveillance footage as it was. With thousands of eyes staring at him in the live broadcast room, he had no room to turn back. The beating had already happened, and there was no doubt that Jiang Xia would lose this battle. She won. From this moment on, Jiang Xia was labeled a violent man. Even Jesus couldn't save him. The comment section of the live broadcast room has gone wild. "It's so funny, isn't this just releasing evidence to prove himself? Kneel down and confess your guilt. This slap hurts even through the screen. How desperate must the person who got hit must have been? Violent man. Go to hell. We must not let him go." On the other side of the screen, Jiang Xia paused the video, put down his phone, ignored the rapidly flashing comments, and tilted his head in confusion. "Huh? That's strange. There's something that's been bothering me. I wonder if Mr. Pang can explain it to me." Pang Xiaohuan was thinking about how to guide the atmosphere in the live broadcast room, to force Jiang Xia into a desperate situation and make him voluntarily withdraw the compensation. Hearing this, she subconsciously replied, "What's the matter?" Jiang Xia frowned slightly and asked in confusion, "If I remember correctly, when you were at the Judicial Appraisal Center yesterday, you told the doctor that your right cheek hurt. Today in the live broadcast room, you kept covering your right cheek, but it's so strange." Jiang Xia dragged the video progress bar to the moment when Pang Xiaohuan was beaten, paused the picture, pointed his finger at the screen and aimed at the camera, squinted his eyes, and showed an innocent smile that was harmless to both humans and animals. "The surveillance video clearly shows that I used my right hand to hit your left cheek. Why did you keep telling others that your right cheek hurt?" "What?" Pang Xiaohuan's heart skipped a beat, as if struck by lightning, and her whole body froze. The rapidly scrolling comment section of the live broadcast room suddenly stopped and became silent. At this moment, everyone was stunned. The frozen image indeed shows the process of Jiang Xia extending his right hand and hitting Pang Xiaohuan's left cheek. Pang Xiaohuan's face was ferocious and flushed, and she seemed to be very angry and violent. She was also afraid of the slap that was about to fall on her face, so she subconsciously twisted her body to the right, trying to avoid it. Everyone just ignored this detail. Everyone was only concerned about whether Jiang Xia hit someone or not. No one cared which half of the face he hit. What is going on? All the viewers in the live broadcast room who supported Pang Xiaohuan were dumbfounded. The left cheek was hit. Then why is she covering her right cheek? Cover wrongly. This doesn't seem to make sense, does it? Pang Xiaohuan kept emphasizing that her right cheek was in great pain. According to her, the pain felt like being pricked by needles and she couldn't sleep at night. Could it be wrong to cover her face? Not to mention the confusion in the live broadcast room, Pang Xiaohuan herself had a brain freeze. Only she herself knew that her right cheek was indeed always hurting, and it had always been on the right side of her face that was hurting, so how come in the surveillance footage it appeared that her left cheek was getting beaten? This is unscientific. After a brief moment of shock, Pang Xiaohuan quickly recovered and pointed at the camera with a red face, shouting, You are lying. You must have tampered with this video. You hit me on the right cheek. Don't think you can get away with it." Faced with Jiang Xia's unexpected and fatal attack at a tricky angle, Pang Xiaohuan was completely panicked. If even the beating was a lie, then she would have no basis for standing. There are also a lot of questions in the comments section. What's going on? Reversal. Is the surveillance video fake? Don't they say videos can't be photoshopped? Suddenly, someone posted a comment, "The surveillance is real. I was at the scene yesterday, and I also recorded a video with my phone." When Pang Xiaohuan received a request for a live broadcast, she panicked for a moment and quickly rejected it. A few seconds later, the person said in the comment section, "Why don't you let me go on the microphone? Aren't you questioning the authenticity of the video? I can prove it." Pang Xiaohuan's mind was a mess, and her vague memories gradually became clear. In her impression, she seemed to have been hit on the left cheek, but why did it hurt on the right cheek? This pain that goes deep into your bones cannot be faked. The wind direction in the comments section has changed at this time. What the hell? What the hell? Is this really a reversal? This guy, after getting slapped in the face, he can still remember which side he got hit on. He is really talented. You're lying if you say your face hurts. No wonder the injury report says there's no damage. But it is a fact that he was beaten, right? He did hit someone, and the violent man still has to die. Chapter 8, Go in and operate the sewing machine. Jiang Xia glanced at the comments section and said, "The audience in the live broadcast room probably don't quite understand the difference between mutual fighting and self-defense. According to our country's laws, if two or more people beat each other in a public place and cause others to be frightened or scared, it can be judged as mutual fighting. But when two people are arguing over trivial matters, and one party starts the fight first, and the other party continues to be assaulted despite trying to avoid the conflict, then if the other party fights back and causes injury to the other party, it is not considered mutual fighting, but should be considered legitimate defense." After a pause, fearing that the audience might not understand, he patiently gave an example. For example, you are buying vegetables at the vegetable market and accuse the store owner of shortchanging you. The store gets angry and rushes up to beat you, and you fight back. There are two possibilities at this time. 1. You can't beat the boss and get pinned to the ground and beaten, or you can beat the boss and kick him to the ground, and then stop. This situation is self-defense. And if you beat your boss and knock him down with a kick, and he can't get up and can't continue to beat you, but you still feel unsatisfied and continue to kick him. In this case, it is difficult to be recognized as self-defense, and it becomes a mutual fight. The comment section suddenly realized. So that is how it is. It means that you can only stop it, not retaliate. I actually think what he said makes a lot of sense. Jiang Xia struck while the iron was hot and continued, you all saw the video just now. When this classmate Pang rushed over to tear my collar for the first time, I didn't fight back, I just pushed her away. Later, she became more aggressive and scratched my face. I had no choice but to slap her in order to protect my own personal safety, and I didn't continue to do that after that. Please put yourself in their shoes and think about it. If it were you, and someone was about to scratch you, would you fight back? If you did, would it be considered self-defense? After a series of examples and analogies, the audience in the live broadcast room fell into deep thought. At this time in the comment section, except for a few stubborn people who continued to clamor, most people's attitudes had begun to waver. We are not stupid. Pang Xiaohuan even remembered incorrectly which side of her face was hit. It is hard not to doubt whether she was really injured and whether the so-called collusion between police and criminals was just conjecture and fabrication. Pang Xiaohuan also noticed the change in wind direction. Her mind was in a mess and she was completely panicked. You are lying. Don't believe him. They are working together to cover up the truth. Pang Xiaohuan tried to struggle, but Jiang Xia didn't give her the chance. In addition to what I said before, I have another question for you, Mr. Pang. Even if it is true as you said, that I hit you, then tampered with the surveillance video, and bribed the police to make a false injury assessment, but I want to ask you, if you are really hurt by that slap I gave you, why is there no mark or fingerprint on your face? Pang Xiaohuan was speechless. Let me tell you why. That slap seemed to hit your face, but at the last moment, I held back my strength. You were not beaten back by me, but you scared yourself away. Although I touched your face, I didn't really hit you. That's why you misremember which side you were hit on, because you weren't hit at all and there was no pain. It didn't hurt, so naturally I can't remember which side of my face I was hit on. If it doesn't hurt, then naturally the injury can't be identified. If it doesn't hurt, it won't be considered a fight. That's why I wasn't punished. Jiang Xia spoke louder and louder, his words were righteous and awe-inspiring, like a wake-up call, and every word struck Pang Xiaohuan's heart. Pang Xiaohuan was speechless, her eyes were confused, she couldn't utter a complete sentence, her brain was in deep chaos, and she even began to doubt herself. The tingling pain on my right cheek that occurs from time to time, is it really an illusion? No matter how hard she tried, she could not imagine that Jiang Xia had the power of the system and the ability to strike back at a large enemy from a distance, which forced her into a desperate situation. Just then, an unexpected development occurred. The dormitory door behind Pang Xiaohuan was suddenly pushed open, and two heroic female police officers walked in with serious faces. Pang Xiaohuan turned around in shock and asked in panic, what are you doing? A female police officer said in a deep voice, Pang Xiaohuan, right? You are suspected of spreading rumors, insulting and slandering others, and smearing the image of the police. The evidence is irrefutable. Now please come back with us to assist in the investigation. Let's go. Without saying a word, the two female police officers grabbed Pang Xiaohuan's shoulders, one on the left and one on the right, and escorted her out the door. At this moment, Pang Xiaohuan was completely panicked and collapsed. Let me go, I didn't. I was wrong, police comrade. Please let me go. She pushed hard with both feet, trying to break free, but how could she be a match for the two policewomen? Her shoes flew off, but she still couldn't get out. The three figures disappeared outside the door, and the live broadcast room was flooded with comments. What the hell? Being punished on the spot. The female police officer is so handsome. I'll just call her my wife. It's over. The anchor is in trouble. You deserve it. I knew she was acting. Pang Xiaohuan was taken away, but her computer was still on and the live broadcast room was not closed. Jiang Xia was not surprised at all by what had just happened, because he was the one who called the police, and he also handed over Pang Xiaohuan's essay and the 7 or 8 videos she had posted to the old policeman at the police station. Since you're going to do it, you might as well be ruthless. Pang Xiaohuan is completely finished now. Originally, if she scratched Jiang Xia, even if the matter was investigated to the end, she would at most be detained for a few days and would not bear criminal responsibility. But she insisted on courting death by writing a short essay and posting it online. She also fabricated facts, instigated others to insult and attack Jiang Xia, and even spread rumors that the police station was shielding Jiang Xia. This series of actions constituted the crime of insult and violated the bottom line of the law. She should be arrested and have a criminal record. It would be fine if no one read her essay and video, but she became popular, with hundreds of thousands of views, which is a serious case of "I dug my own grave" and perfectly illustrates what it means to bring disaster upon yourself. At this time in the live broadcast room, the voices supporting Pang Xiaowan had all disappeared. Everyone was speaking up for Jiang Xia and denouncing Pang Xiaowan for misleading the public. It was as if a new wave of audience had arrived. Brother Jiang Xia is so handsome. So calm. She's not that good looking, but her personality and character are pretty good. Your explanation of self-defense was clear and concise. Are you a law student? Having achieved his goal, Jiang Xia was in no mood to continue arguing with the comment section and just smiled. Everyone, now that the truth is out, I won't continue to take up your time here. I hope that when you are surfing the internet in the future, you can stay calm, analyze things objectively, and make comments after finding out the truth of the matter. Don't let people with bad intentions use you as a tool. After saying that, he closed the microphone. Bite. Jiang Xia heard the system prompt sound and his face lit up with joy. The task was completed and 50 points were credited to his account. All in all, he earned 7,000 in just 2 days. With this money, I finally don't have to be kept awake by snoring in the dormitory anymore. I'm going to rent a house. Chapter 9, Meeting the Counselor again in the cafeteria. After entering his junior year, Jiang Xia was assigned a new roommate due to a dormitory change, which made him very miserable. All 3 roommates snored, one louder than the other. At night, the entire dormitory turned into a surround sound system. The deafening snoring came from 3 directions, tormenting Jiang Xia's nerves. Even the bed seemed to vibrate. He was a light sleeper, and even if he went to bed early, he would be woken up by his snoring in the middle of the night. Waking up his roommates was of no use, as the snoring would start again in less than 2 minutes. Although the 3 roommates felt guilty about this, they had no better solution. Who can control snoring? Jiang Xia thought about changing dormitories, but no one was willing to suffer for him, so he could only endure the pain and was once tortured to the point of suffering from neurasthenia. Now that he had 70 points rewarded by the system, he tried to exchange them for currency. The moment the 70 points were deducted, there was indeed an extra 7,000 points in his bank card. With his wallet full, Jiang Xia didn't want to stay in the dormitory any longer, so he immediately started looking for a room. There are still more than 3 months left before graduation. If I find a similar house to share, 7,000 yuan will definitely be enough to get me through to graduation. After screening some rental information online, Jiang Xia selected a few targets that evening and contacted the landlords to prepare for house viewing. The next day. Since I had classes in the morning, I made appointments with several landlords in the afternoon. The earliest one was scheduled at 1 o'clock. The place was not far away, only about 10 minutes walk from the school gate. After the morning classes were over, Jiang Xia went straight to the cafeteria, ready to go there after lunch. As the get out of class had just ended, there were a lot of people in the cafeteria. Jiang Xia lined up at the rice bowl window where he usually ate. He glanced at the time and found that he had almost made it. The long queue moved forward slowly. 5 minutes later, when it was only a few people away from his turn, a group of uninvited guests suddenly rushed into the cafeteria and headed straight for his team. Everyone has done a great job today. Thank you for your hard work. I'll treat you to dinner. A familiar voice sounded, and Jiang Xia couldn't help but turn his head to take a look. The person walking in front of the crowd was Hu Shui, the counselor he had confronted the day before. Hu Shui wore a black suit today. He walked with great vigor and a cheerful look on his face. It was unknown what activity he had just finished. 7 or 8 students followed him, talking and laughing as they walked through the long line and went straight to the food window. After the student in the front got his meal and left, Hu Shui immediately took a step sideways and pushed a student behind him back. The student looked at Hu Shui, who was obviously dressed as a teacher, gritted his teeth, chose to endure, and said nothing. Hu Shui pointed at the dishes in the window, this, and give me 1 serving of the mapo tofu, and less rice. After ordering her own dishes, she turned around and waved to the 7 or 8 students who were accompanying her. She said loudly as if no one was around, "Come here, what are you standing there for? Order whatever you want, one by one, don't be polite to me." Several students walked over with giggles and full of flattering words. "Director who is so generous. Then I have to have a good meal and improve my life. Thank you, instructor." Their flattery made the students queuing behind them very angry. Cutting in line is something that is unwelcome no matter where you are. Originally, since Hu Shui was a teacher, everyone tolerated her cutting in line. But now, not only did Hu Shui cut in line herself, she also brought 7 or 8 students with her, which immediately caused complaints. "That is too much. I've never seen so many people openly cutting in line. What's wrong with waiting in line? Can you please not cut in line? We've been waiting here for quite some time." With one person taking the lead, more and more people followed. For a moment, the entire team of students put down their phones, looked up and protested. Being under the gazes and condemnation of everyone, those students were also very embarrassed. They stood beside Hu Shui in a dilemma, not knowing what to do. Hu Shui put away her smile, frowned and glanced behind her. Her brows were full of the dignity of a faculty member. She scolded in a deep voice, "What are you arguing about? Have you not eaten in several lifetimes? Do you have to rush now? We have things to do after dinner." After that, he asked the students beside him, "What do you want to eat? Order by yourself, don't worry about them." The student scratched his head, his smile a little stiff, but he didn't dare to offend Hu Shui at this time, so he had to bite the bullet and said, "Then I'll order one portion of braised eggplant, and another portion." At this moment, a clear voice came from the back of the team. "If you have problems, then we are fine. Everyone is queuing, why are you the only ones not observing public order?" Their voice was clear and powerful, and it immediately attracted everyone's attention. Students from several surrounding teams turned their heads and looked over curiously, wanting to see who was so brave that he dared to confront a counselor face to face. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, Jiang Xia, who was standing in the middle of the team, became the focus of attention. Everyone was talking about it. "Fuck, warrior. Who is this person? How dare he challenge the counselor? What's his major? He looks familiar. Wait a minute, isn't he the male protagonist of the library seat hogging incident that has been making a lot of noise these past few days? I remember his name was Jiang something." Pang Xiaozhuan's actions successfully made the dispute between her and Jiang Xia appear on the school's confession wall. Many students were aware of the news and even watched the live confrontation between the two yesterday. It is not surprising that someone recognized Jiang Xia's identity. Facing the whispers of the crowd, Jiang Xia's eyes were calm, without any sign of nervousness on his face, and he was composed. Just now, when Hu Shui pulled the students behind him to cut in line, he was as angry as everyone else, and then he received a task from the system. This time the system still gives two options. One is to swallow the anger and get the title, Ninja Turtle, and the charm value will be reduced by 5. The other one steps forward to stop it and obtains the skill, Invisible Camera, which allows you to freely set the shooting angle to record the video. After completing it, you will receive an additional 10 points as a reward. There was no need to think too much, Jiang Xia closed his eyes and chose 2 without thinking. Not to mention the 10-point system reward, even if there was no reward, he didn't intend to turn a blind eye to Hu Shui's behavior. After experiencing the Pang Xiaohuan incident, Jiang Xia's impression of this counselor dropped to freezing point. He couldn't tell right from wrong, and he used random punches. Now he was blatantly leading so many people to cut in line. Did he really think that this school was his own? This kind of person must not be spoiled. When Hu Shui heard someone contradict her so bluntly, she was stunned at first. When she saw that it was Jiang Xia who was speaking, her eyebrows raised. "Why, no one else has any objections, but you are the only one who is capable, right? What if you starve to death if you eat 2 seconds late? I won't say anything. Do I have anything to do later? Shut your stinky mouth. No one will think you are dumb if you don't speak." Chapter 10. Are you talking to me about respecting teachers? Others are concerned about Hu Shui's identity as a counselor, but Jiang Xia doesn't buy it. Who said others have no objections? Just now so many people asked not to cut in line, did you listen? Hu Shui sneered, "Oh, you're still arguing with me. You've become so arrogant that you don't even take the counselor seriously? Okay, you're the only one with a bad temper, right? I cut in line today, what can you do about it? Are you going to hit me? She reached out and pulled the boy next to her over, and ordered, click. I want to see who can control me today. The boy's face was filled with embarrassment. Being stared at by everyone, he felt like a thorn in his back and thought to himself that he was unlucky. Wasn't this like putting him on the fire? Jiang Xia raised his voice. As college students, everyone should be able to distinguish right from wrong and know what to do and what not to do. Don't lose your manners in front of so many people and let others look down on you. Classmates, am I right? As soon as these words were spoken, several students, including the boy, all blushed and wished they could find a hole to crawl into. Hu Shui could not care about other people's opinions, but they could not. They did not have the privilege of Hu Shui's identity. In front of others, you still have to save some face. Director Hu, please, why don't we just forget it? The boy whispered with embarrassment. Hu Shui glared at him fiercely, slammed the tray of food against the window, splashing the soup everywhere, then turned around, walked up to Jiang Xia, grabbed him by the collar and pulled him out of the line. Come on, aren't you pretty tough? You still know that you're a college student. Is this how you act as a college student? You're blackmailing others morally. Aren't you ashamed to go out? You don't have any manners at all, why are you still going to school? Jiang Xia waved her arm away and said calmly, my family rules are that you can't cut in line when you go out, and you must obey public order. First come, first served is my family rule. Have your parents ever told you to respect your teachers? Is this how you talk back to your teachers? I think all your years of study have been in vain. You've lived in vain. Jiang Xia raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a hint of sarcasm, counselor who still knows how to respect teachers. Then do you know what these 4 words mean? Hu Shui was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously said, respect the teacher, what else can it be? Jiang Xia shook his head. Respecting the teacher only means the first 2 words. What does it mean to respect the moral code? It means to respect the moral code that should be followed. You led a large group of people to openly cut in line. After being criticized, not only did you not realize your mistake, but you also threatened and insulted the students. Is this moral? You didn't mention the obligation stipulated in the 4 words, respect teachers and honor the way, but you just talk about rights. Other teachers set an example, but you are a negative example. I think it's you, not me, who has wasted all these years studying and living in vain. What do you think, Director Hu? Hu Shui was so angry at his words that she was shaking all over and raised her hand to hit someone. Jiang Xia immediately took a step back. Hey? A gentleman should use words instead of fists. Director Hu, think carefully. If you slap me, I will lie down immediately. Is there enough money in Director Hu's salary card? You? Hu Shui's raised hand froze in midair, neither able to be raised nor lowered, her face twisted with anger. She kept saying you for a long time, then threw her hand away angrily and pointed at Jiang Xia's nose again with flaming eyes. You are such a good fellow, Jiang Xia. I haven't settled the score with you for talking back to me in the office last time, but now you're trying to be a hero again, right? Well, just wait and see what will happen to you if you go against me. You won't know who you are unless you get beaten up by society. After leaving a harsh remark, she no longer cared about the students she brought with her, and walked towards the cafeteria entrance in her high heels. Students along their way avoided her, fearing that they would be scolded for blocking her way. Jiang Xia shouted jokingly from behind, Director Hu, don't leave. You haven't even eaten the food you ordered yet. If you leave like this, won't your participation in the team be in vain? Puff. The onlookers couldn't help but burst out laughing. This is too bad. It's really not worth it. Hu Shui paused, clenched his fists, tried hard to suppress his anger, and rushed out of the door without looking back. As soon as she left, the next second, thunderous applause suddenly broke out in the quiet cafeteria. Good. Good job. Brother, you have backbone and courage. That's a good retort. Everyone looked at Jiang Xia with admiration. Apart from anything else, the scene where Jiang Xia acted neither humble nor arrogant and made Hu Shui speechless was so satisfying. Amid the prolonged applause, the students brought by Hu Shui became clowns, feeling so ashamed that they couldn't face themselves. While no one was paying attention to them, they walked quietly and dejectedly along the wall. Jiang Xia smiled slightly and nodded modestly to all directions. Everyone, just do what you need to do. Don't waste time on this unpleasant episode. If I don't get food, I'm going to starve to death. Yes, yes. Everyone line up consciously. Auntie, give me 2 big spoonfuls of rice. The stagnant team moved forward again. Soon, Jiang Xia finished his meal and found an empty table to sit down. Halfway through the meal, 3 girls came over with trays of food. One of them put the tray opposite Jiang Xia and took out her cell phone. Classmate, you just acted very courageously. Can I add your prestige so I can get to know you? Jiang Xia was eating his meal. He was startled when he heard the words. He looked up and saw the other person's face clearly. His heart suddenly skipped a beat. The girl who was speaking was wearing a white belly-bearing camisole with a pink Hello Kitty pattern on her chest that was lifted up by her towering curves. Her breasts looked to be at least a C cup and she had a small, sparkly necklace around her neck. She wore a blue sweater on the outside and a JK plaid skirt on the bottom. Her face was at the level of an internet celebrity, pure yet a bit playful and cute. Her long black hair was tied up high behind her head with a white hairband, which slid down to her chest as she leaned over. She could only be described in 2 words: Pantene. Hiss. Jiang Xia took a deep breath. Which college's beauty ran out? Realizing that he had lost his composure, he quickly adjusted his facial expression, swallowed the food in his mouth, took out his mobile phone and showed the QR code. After the girl finished sweeping, she picked up the plate with one hand and waved goodbye to him. You are Jiang Xia, right? My name is Li Xiu, remember to make a note tilde. Remember to take notes. A girl next to her imitated her tone and spoke in a sarcastic manner. Li Xiu's pretty face blushed slightly. The 3 of them left while playing and joking, leaving behind a string of silver bell-like laughter. After they left, Jiang Xia looked down at her phone and saw that Li Xiu's WeChat avatar was herself. Well, it's pleasing to the eyes. Could it be that my love interest has arrived? Jiang Xia laughed at himself, then shook his head and continued to eat. I'm about to graduate, and the couples around me are busy breaking up. Who would be stupid enough to find a partner at this time? Moreover, when he thought of his charm value of only 3 points, he gave up his unrealistic fantasy. Maybe I just added it for fun and on a whim. Don't think too much about it and don't take it to heart. Now, the most important thing is to finish your meal and go find a house. Chapter 11. The beautiful roommate turned out to be. After completing the task of stopping Hu Shui from cutting in line, Jiang Xia earned another 10 points. However, although the system's task was completed, he did not intend to stop there. People like Hu Shui have corrupt teacher ethics and are not worthy of being a role model. Having been scolded by me twice, he must be holding a grudge. If I just leave him alone, who knows when he will pop up and make things difficult for me. Although university counselors do not have much power, it is always uncomfortable to know that someone is plotting against them behind their backs. It is better to take the initiative and nip the danger in the bud. After leaving the cafeteria and heading to the first house viewing spot, Jiang Xia imported the footage captured by the hidden camera into his mobile phone, found the Penguin account of Yang Jiancheng, director of the Student Affairs Office, from the school group, edited it, and sent it to him. Director Yang, Hu Shui, the 2019 IoT counselor, led students to openly cut in line in the cafeteria. After being stopped, she not only refused to admit her mistake, but also insulted and threatened the students. This seriously tarnished the image of our school's faculty and staff. Please ask the school to deal with it seriously. Below is a video of the entire cafeteria dispute. Of course, the shooting angle was not from him, but from a classmate who was keen on recording life. After sending the message, the other party didn't respond and Jiang Xia didn't care. If a director can reply within seconds, he wouldn't be called a director. Opposite the south gate of Yancheng University, there is a community called Peninsular Courtyard. It is built by the river and has a good environment. Jiang Xia U.S. first landlord was here. Jiang Xia arrived at the place exactly 2 minutes to 1. He called the landlord and soon a middle-aged man wearing a black shirt and with a slightly plump figure walked out of the community. You are the student who wants to see the house, right? Come on, I'll take you there. It was his first time renting a house, and Jiang Xia was afraid of being ripped off, so he contacted individual landlords instead of looking for an agent. The house that the middle-aged man rented out was a 3-bedroom, 1 living room apartment. The 2 secondary bedrooms had already been rented out, and Jiang Xia was looking at the remaining master bedroom. The two went upstairs to take a look. The house was exquisitely decorated. There was an LCD TV and a large sofa in the living room. Their master bedroom was quite spacious with a large balcony, and all other necessary home appliances were available. The only drawback is that there is only one bathroom. According to the landlord, one of the two tenants in the second bedroom is a girl, which is a bit inconvenient. The rent is 1,000 yuan a month, 1 month deposit and 1 month payment, and water is shared equally. Most of the people who come to rent here are students. This price is very fair. You can rent for as long as you want. If it's suitable, we can sign the contract today. The landlord was very straightforward, and Jiang Xia was somewhat tempted, but he still said politely, "I'll think about it and call you if I want to rent it." Okay. After coming out of the peninsular courtyard, Jiang Xia spent the afternoon looking at a few more houses. After a round of visits, the place that satisfied him the most was the peninsular courtyard at the beginning. After thinking for a few minutes, Jiang Xia dialed the phone. "Hello? Mr. Chen. I've decided to rent your master bedroom. Okay, I'll come over to sign the contract with you now." After signing the rental contract and getting the key, Jiang Xia contacted his 3 roommates, told them that he had rented a house outside and asked them to help move his things. When he returned to the dormitory, as soon as he entered the door, his 3 roommates came up and punched him one by one. "Jiang Xia, have you made a fortune? You just moved out without saying a word. I'm about to graduate. Isn't it a bit of a loss to move out now? Well, stop talking. Jiang Xia has escaped from the sea of suffering by moving out. We should still support him." After the last sentence came out, all 3 of them felt a little embarrassed. Jiang Xia felt uncomfortable about the snoring, and they also felt bad about it. Seeing that the atmosphere was a bit awkward, Jiang Xia grinned and clapped his hands, saying, "All right, stop talking nonsense. It's going to be dark soon, guys, get busy." The 4 of them worked together and got 3 small electric scooters to carry the luggage, and they moved all of Jiang Xia's things over in one trip. After moving the things, Jiang Xia treated his 3 roommates to a small barbecue on the roadside. The 4 of them sat around the table, each with a bottle of beer, looking very generous. Halfway through boasting, a roommate suddenly said, "Jiang Xia, I heard that you had a fight with the instructor in the cafeteria at noon today. You'd better be careful. With Hu Shui's temper, be careful that she will find a chance to mess with you." Jiang Xia smiled casually, "I didn't fail any courses, and I didn't get any punishment. After I finish my thesis defense, I can do whatever I want. I'm not afraid of her." Another roommate worried, "What if she blocks you on your graduation project? Then she can talk to the teacher in charge of your defense in advance and let you advance to the second or third debate, or even delay your graduation. It's not impossible for her to do it." Yeah, with all the code we wrote for our graduation projects, how many people dare to say that they have mastered it all? What if the teacher deliberately makes things difficult for you and asks you difficult questions, can you answer them? Listening to what his brother said, Jiang Xia's heart skipped a beat and he began to feel a little nervous. After a moment of silence, he grinned and raised his glass. "Oh. If an enemy comes, I will fight him. If a flood comes, I will block it with earth. How can I fall into her hands? Let's not talk about this. Let's drink." Seeing that he didn't want to talk more, the 3 of them raised their glasses and changed the subject. Dry. The 4 years of college are almost over. Why didn't I realize that you, Jiang Xia, are so brave? You are truly a role model for our generation. After dinner, Jiang Xia said goodbye to his 3 roommates and returned to the peninsular courtyard alone. After buying some fruits at the supermarket outside the community, Jiang Xia walked outside the apartment building and saw from afar a somewhat familiar figure coming out of the carport and entering the apartment building. He paused and muttered, "No way." After hesitating for a moment, Jiang Xia walked into the apartment building carrying a bag of fruit and turned the corner. A girl is waiting in front of the elevator door. When Jiang Xia walked over, she turned her head and took a look. Her face was obviously stunned for a moment, and then a look of surprise appeared. "You, Jiang Xia? Why are you here?" Jiang Xia's expression also looked a little strange. What was going on? Could there really be such a coincidence in the world? I just moved to this neighborhood. I didn't expect to run into you here. What a coincidence. The girl in front of him, with a high ponytail, a white hair circle, and a pair of straight legs under her JK skirt, was an eye-catching weapon. She was none other than the beautiful girl who had just added his prestige in the cafeteria at noon, Li Xiu. At this moment, Jiang Xia's heart, which had been deliberately suppressed, became restless again. Is this fate? A destined meeting? Is it God's destiny that there will be some story between him and her, rather than just a chance encounter and passing by? Bar. 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 What are you thinking about, Jiang Xia? Oh Jiang Xia, please don't be so self-indulgent. This is just a coincidence with a low probability, purely a coincidence. Just as the two were staring at each other in shock and speechlessness, the elevator door opened with a ding sound. The two walked into the elevator. Li Xiu pressed the button for the 8th floor blankly, and the elevator door slowly closed. Buzz. As the elevator went up, Li Xiu broke the silence. You are really not. Jiang Xia answered quickly as if he had been electrocuted. What a coincidence. I didn't know you lived here too. Oh. Li Xiu nodded thoughtfully, and the elevator fell silent again. Bite. They arrived at the 8th floor. Li Xiu stepped out of the elevator and Jiang Xia followed. Arriving outside room 803, Li Xiu took out the key and prepared to open the door, but she paused when she found Jiang Xia standing behind her. Oh, you. This time, Jiang Xia felt that he could not wash himself clean even if he jumped into the Yellow River. He had no choice but to raise the key he had just received, smile bitterly and shrug. Classmate, I can only say that we are destined to be together. Chapter 12. Who was stirring the pot in the kitchen so late at night? Returning to his room, Jiang Xia closed the door and leaned against it, his mind still in a daze. I rented a house casually, and my roommate turned out to be a beautiful girl who I had just added on WeChat during the day. Who wouldn't be confused if this happened to them? It's a pity that he will graduate in 3 months. This dreamlike coincidence has a shelf life that is too short. Shaking his head and putting the matter behind him, Jiang Xia began to pack his things. After working for a long time and getting everything in place, it was almost 10 o'clock. Jiang Xia fell on the bed and finally had time to take out his cell phone. When I opened Penguin, I didn't receive a reply from Director Yan, but instead received several messages from Hu Shui. You're so good, Jiang Xia. You're telling tales to the director, right? Do you think you're so powerful? I'm telling you, let alone Director Yang, it will be useless even if you report to the dean or the principal. You haven't even grown all your hair yet, but you think you're someone important. You dare to go against the counselor. Who do you think you are? A student like you who has no quality and bad morals, don't even think about graduating from my school. You will be a hazard to society if you are released into society. Our school can't afford to lose you. Just wait and see if I can cure you. Staring at the phone screen, Jiang Xia rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. It seems that Director Yang from the Student Affairs Office and Hu Shui are in cahoots with each other. Not only was his report not accepted, but Director Yang reported it to Hu Shui. There was absolutely no way Hu Shui would let him go this time. At this point, Jiang Xia's unwillingness to believe in evil also came up. Arrogant, right? Reporting to the dean or the principal is useless, right? Then just skip the school and report to the Education Bureau. I don't believe that no one cares. Jiang Xia immediately searched the internet for the email address of Yangcheng Education Bureau, re-edited the video and text sent to Yang Jiancheng, and sent an anonymous email. No matter how powerful Hu Shui's background is, it's impossible that he has someone in the Education Bureau, right? Putting down his phone, Jiang Xia took a shower, lay on the bed, watched some videos, and then fell into a deep sleep. Midnight. Ding-ling-dang. Da-da-da. Hu Kai. A shrill noise woke Jiang Xia from his sleep. He opened his sleepy eyes blankly, picked up the phone on the bedside table and checked the time. 12:30 in the morning. Damn, who is cooking in the middle of the night? And making such a loud noise? Do you have any sense of public morality? Jiang Xia sat up and listened carefully. The sound seemed to come from outside the bedroom door. He pounded his head in annoyance, turned over, put on his pajamas and slippers, walked over and opened the door. I originally rented a house to live in peace and quiet and have a good sleep, but I ended up being woken up in the middle of the night. This is absolutely unbearable. When I came to the living room, I smelled the aroma of food wafting from the kitchen. A man in his 30s, wearing a white shirt, was waving a spatula vigorously, and the food in the pot was flying up and down with his movement. Everyone in Jiangxia was dumbfounded. What the hell, he's still flipping the spoon. The man noticed him, turned his head, looked him up and down, and grinned. "You are the new tenant who moved into the master bedroom, right?" "My last name is Xu, you can call me Brother Xu, nice to meet you." Jiang Xia subconsciously introduced himself. "Hello, my name is Jiang Xia." What a ghost! Halfway through his words, Jiang Xia suddenly realized that he was not here to say hello. Brother Xu, what are you doing?" The man turned off the fire, took the plate and poured the cooked vegetables into it, smiling apologetically. "Oh, sorry, did I bother you? I worked overtime at the company today and didn't get home until midnight. I was so hungry that I just made something to eat. Would you like to join us?" As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person. The man's attitude made Jiang Xia feel like he had punched cotton, and the anger that was woken up by the noise dissipated a lot. He scratched his head, not blaming anyone anymore, and could only say, "Look, Brother Xu, it's almost 1 o'clock." The man nodded quickly, but his hands kept moving. I'm sorry to disturb your rest. Today is a special situation, and it won't happen again. As an apology, how about trying the food I cooked? My cooking skills are excellent." Jiang Xia sighed helplessly, refused, and returned to his room. Jiang Xia closed the door and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling with wide eyes, listening to the clashing of pots and pans, the sounds of footsteps, and the intermittent coughing and spitting in the kitchen and living room, which still showed no signs of stopping. He had the urge to punch through the ceiling. Forget it. I've also said that I've been working overtime late today, so I should also understand the difficulties of office workers. It won't be like this tomorrow. Just as he was comforting himself in his heart, ding dong. The phone rang. I opened WeChat and saw it was a message from Li Xiu. After adding each other on WeChat during the day, the two had not spoken to each other yet, and this was the first message sent between them. "Li Xiu, were you woken up too?" Li Xiu, "Well, you'll get used to it." Jiang Xia was startled. Does this happen often?" Li Xiu, "It doesn't happen often." Jiang Xia breathed a sigh of relief. "It happens every day." Everyone in Jiang Xia was dumbfounded. "What do you mean it happens every day? Didn't he say he worked overtime late today and that's why he came back to cook at this time?" Li Xiu, "At first I believed his lies, but later I found that he came back after 12 o'clock almost every day, cooked, washed, walked around the living room, and sometimes even lay on the sofa in the living room and listened to Douyin. Li Xiu, he's not like this only on Sundays when he's resting." Jiang Xia felt numb when he saw the message sent by Li Xiu. "But he just said it won't happen again." Li Xiu, "No matter who he is, he never does it again. You are too naive to believe him." Li Xiu, "As far as I know, the previous tenants of this house all moved out because of him. He is the only one who has been living here and has completely regarded this place as his own home." Jiang Xia asked in confusion, "Why? It's wrong for him to disturb others' rest in the middle of the night, right? Why is it that others have moved out?" Li Xiu, "There's nothing you can do. He's not trying to be tough with you. He accepts your criticism and apologizes when you protest. He agrees more readily than anyone else, but he still does what he should do the next night. What can you do to him?" Jiang Xia thought about what had just happened and it seemed to be true. Anyone facing that impossible smile would have no choice but to compromise. The landlord doesn't care? No one complained. Li Xiu, "Everyone complained, but Xu Fei is the landlord's nephew. The landlord also talked to him, but he didn't listen. The landlord was also very troubled, but he couldn't kick him out because the landlord's wife would make a fuss." Jiang Xia was speechless. Well, it turned out that he was the landlord's relative, a person with connections. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant. Chapter 13. Like daughter, like parents. After hesitating for a moment, Jiang Xia asked, "Can you stand his noise?" Li Xiu, "It's okay. I usually wear earplugs when I sleep. I signed a 6-month contract with the landlord. I have already paid for half a year. It's very troublesome to return it. If it weren't for this, I would have gotten rich a long time ago." "Huh? Why don't you pay monthly?" Jiang Xia rubbed his eyebrows. "What kind of thing is this? You have to endure it when you rent a house. The people who make the noise get nothing wrong, but the victims are forced to move. No. I can't stand it." After a moment of silence on the phone, he typed, "If he still does this tomorrow, I will fight him to the end and won't let him do whatever he wants. Li Shiyu, you are indeed a man who dares to challenge the counselor openly. Come on. I'm sleepy, I'm going to sleep first, good night. Good night. Jiang Xia turned off his phone and stared at the ceiling in a daze, his thoughts gradually dispersing amid the ping-pong noise. The next day. Early in the morning, Jiang Xia was awakened by the ringing of the phone. Picking up the phone and putting it to his ear, he closed his eyes and asked, "Hello, who is it?" "Jiang Xia, right? I'm from the police station. The incident you reported last time, that insult and defamation, we can't do anything about it here. You have to go to the court and file a criminal lawsuit yourself." Jiang Xia suddenly woke up and sat up from the bed. Do I still need to hire a lawyer to fight the lawsuit myself?" "Yes, otherwise you can choose not to pursue the matter. We can help you mediate and get some compensation or something, and then detain you for a few more days." Jiang Xia hesitated for a moment and said in a deep voice, "Thank you, officer. I'd better go get a lawyer." Detention and fines alone are not enough to leave a deep impression on Pang Xiaohuan. Once the incident is over, there is no guarantee that she will continue to act as she pleases, and it will not serve as a warning to her and cause her to repent. Just hire a lawyer. Anyway, there is still a lot of money left from exchanging system points. This is not a big case, so it should be enough. By the way, how is Pang Xiaohuan now? Has she returned to school? Jiang Xia asked casually. This crazy woman might go to extremes in excitement and come back to school to seek revenge on him. Jiang Xia has to be on guard. No, she's being held in the police station now, and she can't go back within a week. Your business is your business, but we can't just let it go for her slandering the public security organs. Let's handle this matter for her first. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Xia stretched hard and looked at the time. It was already past 9 in the morning. After getting up and washing up, Li Shiyu's room was quiet. I didn't know whether she had gone out or was still sleeping. There was no sound in the other bedroom either. Jiang Xia packed up, did some searching online, went downstairs and took a taxi straight to his destination, Chujiao Law Firm. This law firm has good reviews online and its fees are said to be relatively affordable. When they arrived, Jiang Xia explained his purpose and soon a man in a suit and gold-rimmed glasses came out to greet him. "I'm Chu Hao, a lawyer from this firm. What do you want?" Jiang Xia recounted what had happened and his thoughts, then took out the copied USB drive and handed it to the other party. 10 minutes later, Chu Hao finished watching the contents of the USB flash drive, including the video of the library seat occupying incident, the video and short essay posted by Pang Xiaohuan online, and the screen recording of the two people's live broadcast. Chu Hao pulled out the USB drive and cleared his throat. "So Mr. Jiang, what you mean is to sue her for insult and defamation, right? What compensation do you expect?" Jiang Xia hesitated and said, "I'm not very clear about the compensation aspect. Do you have any suggestions?" Chu Hao stared at him for a moment and said, "Then apply for 30,000 yuan in mental compensation first." So many? Jiang Xia was shocked. Chu Hao smiled and said, "You may not be successful after applying, so let's give it a try first. By the way, is there any possibility of an out-of-court settlement?" "No." Jiang Xia shook his head without hesitation, "I don't even need compensation. My only request is that you sentence me as I want." Chu Hao nodded, "I understand. Okay, we'll take this case." Half an hour later, Jiang Xia, feeling heartbroken over the loss of $3,000, walked out of the office and called a car to return to school. Chu Hao said that he had sufficient evidence in this case and it would be easy to sue, with almost no suspense. It was a sure win, so the fee was not high. The fee is not high but it still costs 3,000. Jiang Xia finally understands why so many people in life do not choose to take legal action to protect themselves when faced with injustice. Legal weapons are not so easy to use. It was almost noon when he returned to school. After eating in the cafeteria, Jiang Xia went back to the dormitory to borrow a classmate's computer and continued to work on his graduation project. In order not to give Hu Shui a chance to catch him, he must treat his graduation project seriously. If Hu Shui really asks someone to make things difficult for him, he can only rely on his own strength to force his way through. Crackling. Halfway through typing the code, a classmate suddenly pushed the door open and said, "Jiang Xia, someone is looking for you outside the dormitory building." Who is it? Jiang Xia asked without raising his head. How would I know? A couple, could they be your parents? The sound of typing stopped abruptly. Jiang Xia raised his head suspiciously. A couple. He got up, went downstairs and came to the door of the dormitory. He glanced around and saw a strange middle-aged man and woman standing under the shade of the tree in the flower bed, looking at this side anxiously. Jiang Xia's heart moved, and he roughly guessed the identities of the two people. He walked over calmly and asked, I'm Jiang Xia. Uncle and aunt are looking for me. Are you Jiang Xia? The woman on the left's eyes lit up. Without saying a word, she grabbed his arm and screamed, You young man, you are so cruel. What did you do to our precious daughter? You actually want to send her to jail. You are from the same school, how could you have the heart to do that to me? Jiang Xia frowned. Sure enough, these two people were Pang Xiaojuan's parents. He pulled his hand back and said coldly, Auntie, what you said is wrong. It's your daughter who has been causing trouble for me again and again. Now she has to pay the price for her actions. How can you blame me? At one side, Father Pang was furious and scolded, If you are not wrong, why would Wan bother you? Why doesn't she bother others? Young man, don't be so ruthless. I think you just want some compensation. I'll give you any money, just stop bothering Wan. What do you mean I'm bothering her? Jiang Xia was so angry that he almost laughed. It was true that people from the same family resembled each other. Every one of them in this family was outrageous. The logic didn't make sense, and he was too lazy to argue with the two of them anymore. It is no longer up to me to decide what will happen to Pang Xiaowan. I have already entrusted a lawyer to file a lawsuit in court. You just need to wait for the trial to begin. The court will make the final decision on right and wrong. After saying that, he turned and left. After walking 2 steps, he suddenly remembered something and turned around and said, Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to tell you that your daughter broke my computer and she still hasn't paid me 5,600 yuan in compensation. Now it seems that today is the deadline. Will you two give me the money now, or let it be overdue, and then I will file a lawsuit in court and add another charge against your daughter. Chapter 14, You are right about the noise disturbing the residents. Pang Xiaojuan's parents looked at each other in bewilderment. They had heard Pang Xiaojuan mention the matter of compensation for the computer on the phone, but she had never mentioned that there was still so much money missing. Father Pang was skeptical and asked, 5,006? What kind of computer is so expensive? Are you going to cheat us? Jiang Xia shrugged. If you don't want to give it, forget it. We'll settle the matter in court. Maybe I can get an extra 2 years in prison. Pang's father and mother knew nothing about the law, and they panicked when Jiang Xia threatened them that he would sentence them. Okay, I'll give it to you. He took out his cell phone and scanned 5,600 yuan. After receiving the compensation, Jiang Xia showed a hint of joy on his face. It's not a good idea to borrow my classmates' computers every day to do my graduation project. Now that I have enough money, I should buy a new computer. I say, now that you've taken the money, you should also let our Wan go, right? Wan is still young. If she gets put in jail and has a criminal record, what will she do in the future? Father Pang said with a sullen face, clutching his phone. Jiang Xia raised his eyebrows. No, the compensation for breaking the computer is one thing, and it has nothing to do with the mistake your daughter made. These are 2 different things. If you do something wrong, you have to accept the punishment. It's only natural. If you have time to come to me, you might as well hire a lawyer to figure out how to defend yourself in court. After saying this, he turned and left. Wait, don't go. Don't go, you little bastard. If you don't want to reconcile, return my money. In the evening, Jiang Xia returned to the peninsular courtyard carrying his new computer. There are a lot of software to download on the newly bought computer, and I also have to copy my half-finished graduation project over and deploy the code environment. There are a lot of things to do. By the time Jiang Xia finished his work, it was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. There was a sound of unlocking a door outside. It seemed that Li Xiu had returned. After a while, the sound of a shower came from the bathroom. 2 hours later, Jiang Xia turned off their computer and climbed onto the bed. The sound of the door opening was heard again outside. Xu Fei is back. Jiang Xia glanced at the time. It was 12:19, exactly on time. What they said about it not happening again and that we would have to work overtime temporarily turned out to be a lie. Jiang Xia lay on the bed for a while, listening to the footsteps outside, bumping here and there. The sound continued, and his brows were furrowed more and more. Finally, when the sound of cutting vegetables came from the kitchen again, he couldn't help it. Get out of bed, put on shoes, open the door, and go to the kitchen door. Jiang Xia stared expressionlessly at Xu Fei, who was shredding potatoes, and asked, "Didn't you say yesterday that this wouldn't happen again? It's already 12:30, why are you starting again? Can't you let me sleep?" Xu Fei stopped, turned to look at him, and that inflexible smile appeared on his face again. "Oh, I'm sorry to bother you. Look, the department has been working overtime again today. I'm so hungry." Jiang Xia interrupted him in a harsh tone, "Working overtime is your own business. It's not a reason for you to cook in the middle of the night and disturb others' rest." Xu Fei narrowed his eyes. Okay, I promise. I promise I won't do this tomorrow, okay." Jiang Xia spat out 2 words without hesitation, "No." Xu Fei's smile froze, and he took a breath. "Little brother, please be flexible. If you can catch up with the normal time for dinner, who wants to cook in the middle of the night? You should also understand the difficulties of office workers. I promise you that it won't be like this tomorrow. And then tomorrow and tomorrow? Just keep putting it off until I move out, just like the other tenants." Xu Fei was startled. "Who told you that?" Jiang Xia kept silent and just stared at him quietly. Xu Fei glanced thoughtfully in the direction of Li Shiyu's room and raised his voice, "Beauty, this is not authentic. How can you say bad things about me behind my back to your new roommate?" He put away his hypocritical smile, glanced at Jiang Xia indifferently, picked up the kitchen knife and continued cutting vegetables. "Now that you know everything, go back inside. This is my house, I can do whatever I want with it. If you're not happy, you can move out, no one can stop you." Jiang Xia said, "Your house? Did you ask Mr. Chen for permission before you said this? Do you have a property certificate?" Xu Fei was unmoved and waved his hand to drive him away. "Go away, I don't have time to argue with you. If you have any objections, feel free to call Chen Haitao. If you like, you can also call the police. But I'm telling you in advance that the police won't take care of this matter, and they can't do anything about it either. You are too young to understand the ways of society. Not everything will go according to your ideals. I am teaching you a lesson. When you enter society in the future, you may thank me." Jiang Xia said coldly, "So you are determined to continue like this?" Xu Fei laughed and shook his head, "You really didn't listen to what I said at all. Fine, I'll repeat it again. Here, I'm the master. I can cook whenever I want and do whatever I want. You can stay or leave if you want. Do you understand?" Jiang Xia was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. "Damn it, I've lived for 20 years, and this is the first time I've met such a shameless person. There must be a limit to shamelessness, right? How can this be tolerated? He must be dealt with." Ding! The host's emotions are fluctuating greatly. The mission is about to begin. 1. It's better to do less than more. Just endure the noise silently and leave it at that. Your mental and physical values will decrease by 1. 2. Fight to the end and drive out the noisemaker. Obtain the item, Ghost Wall Sticker. Stick it on the wall to blend in with the surrounding environment and make the sound of a ghost crying at night. Obtain 10 points upon completion. Jiang Xia's mind moved. Items and props. Without saying a word, he turned and walked towards his room. In the kitchen, Xu Fei, who was simmering oil in a pan, turned his head to look at the door, sneered disdainfully, shook his head and cursed, "Idiot." Back in the room, Jiang Xia silently recited option 2. A white light flashed in front of him, and a palm-sized wall sticker appeared out of thin air and landed on the bed. He picked it up and saw that the wall sticker was shaped like a weird puppet with big black eyes, a fruit knife in its hand, and dark blue overalls. There was a creepy evil aura all over its body. This thing will work just by pressing it on the wall. Jiang Xia was just about to try out the effect, but when he raised his hand halfway, he suddenly stopped. Forget it. The things given by the system will definitely not fail, so I'd better not try them blindly. He didn't want to experience the power of the little ghost's cry firsthand, as it would be bad if it left a psychological trauma. It would be better to leave this good thing to Xu Fei alone. After putting the little ghost wall sticker into the drawer, Jiang Xia thought for a moment, took out his cell phone and sent a message to Li Shiyu asking if they were there. Li Shiyu replied immediately, "I'm here. You're not asleep yet. Did you hear the noise just now? Okay. What do you think?" Li Shiyu paused for a moment. "What do you mean?" Although it's very annoying, he's right. The police can't do anything about this. Some of the previous tenants called the police. When the police came, they could only give Xu Fei a verbal lecture. Xu Fei must have agreed. Once the police left, he was still the same as before. Originally, disturbing others in the middle of the night is a violation of public order, but we are roommates, the noise he makes can only be heard by us roommates, so it is even more difficult for the police to handle it. We can't ask the property management for this kind of thing, and the landlord is his relative. Chapter 15, Xu Fei's Collapse. Looking at the few lines of text sent by Li Shiyu, Jiang Xia sighed. There are many similar things in life. They are not big deals and do not constitute crimes, but they are unbearable and cause great trouble to people's normal lives and legal rights. It is often these trivial things that fill everyone's life, dragging down people's pace of progress, and when accumulated, they make people feel that life is difficult. However, it was unlucky for this guy that Xu Fei fell into his hands. Thinking of this, Jiang Xia typed and asked, "If I say I have a way to drive him away, would you be willing to help?" Li Shiyu sent a tilted head cat emoji. "What can you do?" Jiang Xia, "Just tell me if you're willing or not." Li Shiyu, "Yes, of course." Jiang Xia, "Okay, then starting from tomorrow, you move out for a few days and come back when I tell you when you can come back." He was not sure about the effective range of the little ghost wall sticker, and he was also afraid that Xu Fei would do something irrational if forced into a corner. It would be better to inform Li Shiyu first and let her go out and hide. Li Shiyu, "You're not trying to fight poison with poison, are you?" Jiang Xia raised the corner of his mouth. "This person is not only beautiful, but also very smart." "That's about right." Li Shiyu, "Then I might have to pour cold water on you." A tenant used this trick before, even using a building shaker, but Xu Fei never gave in. In the end, the tenant was accused of disturbing the neighbors and was scolded by the property management sweating. Jiang Xia thought that it was because he had no system to help him. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Xu Fei will definitely not be able to withstand my methods." Li Shiyu, "Wow, you are so confident." "Okay, I will listen to you and stay in the dormitory for a few days. I hope you can really drive him away. It's so annoying." After a while, the sound of washing dishes came from the kitchen. It was already past 1 o'clock. Jiang Xia breathed a sigh of relief. This guy finally finished eating. He could finally sleep peacefully. After a few minutes, a very loud sound of fighting suddenly came from the living room, which startled Jiang Xia. "Fuck! This guy is still using Douyin in the living room." Jiang Xia clenched his fists tightly, took a deep breath, and told himself to stay calm and not be impulsive. Bastard, let him be arrogant for one last night. At 10 o'clock the next morning, Jiang Xia woke up, washed up, and looked in the mirror. There were 2 big dark bags under his red eyes, as if he hadn't slept for 3 days and 3 nights. This bastard, he gritted his teeth. Xu Fei worked until 3 o'clock last night. Doesn't this guy have to get up early to go to work every day? How come he is so energetic at night? I knocked on Li Shiyu's door, but there was no response, as if she had gotten up and left a long time ago. Come to think of it, he still doesn't know what year Li Shiyu is in, nor what her major is. Jiang Xia glanced around a few times, tiptoed to the outside of Xu Fei's room, took out the little ghost wall sticker from his trouser pocket, and pressed it on the wall next to the door. Swish! A faint white light flashed, and the little ghost wall sticker quickly hid its tracks and merged with the wall. It would be impossible to see it without a magnifying glass. I don't know if it's an illusion, but after putting this thing on, Jiang Xia felt that the temperature in the room dropped by several degrees, and there was a cool feeling on his back. Hiss, it's still daytime, and it's so creepy, slip away. Jiang Xia returned to the room, packed his notebook and some clothes into his bag, put on his backpack and was about to go out when he suddenly had an idea. Wait, there's one thing I haven't done yet. He summoned a hidden camera, fixed it above the wardrobe, and adjusted it to a viewing angle that could capture the entire room. Don't move, don't move. Muttering to himself, Jiang Xia left the room, locked the door, and took the elevator downstairs. Call up the system interface, and the image captured by the camera will become an independent small window and be placed in the lower right corner of the system interface. Jiang Xia clenched his fist and waved it. It's done. Next, it's time to let the bullets fly. The day passed quickly. At 12 o'clock in the evening, the door of room 803 was pushed open with a click. Xu Fei, with a tired face, walked into the room with a briefcase and closed the door. Returning to his room, he threw his briefcase onto the bed, then fell headfirst onto it and lay there quietly for a while. After resting for about 5 minutes, Xu Fei turned over and sat up, took off his leather shoes, put on slippers, and went to the living room. When he reached the kitchen door, he paused, turned his head to look at the master bedroom door, and smiled slightly. "Humph, you little brat, you're still messing with me." Walking into the kitchen and opening the refrigerator door, Xu Fei was about to bend down to take the vegetables on the lower shelf when he suddenly heard a strange baby's laughter. Hee hee hee. The sound was so clear, as if it was made by someone lying on his back with mouth close to his ear. Xu Fei was so frightened that he straightened his back suddenly, and with a bang, the refrigerator shook violently. Who? Who? Xu Fei's heart was pounding and he subconsciously turned his head to look around, but there was no one in sight under the soft light. Gulp. He swallowed hard, his temples throbbing and a layer of cold sweat on his back. Wrong, illusion. Xu Fei patted his chest and muttered to himself. If this is an illusion, then it's too damn real. Is it because of too much overtime work? Damn blood-sucking company. Damn the manager. Xu Fei slowly calmed down, leaned over to take out a cabbage, peeled off the plastic wrap, washed it and put it on the chopping board, and was about to reach for the knife. Wow. A shrill baby cry suddenly exploded in Xu Fei's ears, and all the hairs on his body stood up. He jumped 3 feet high on the spot. Who? Who is kidding me? He stormed out of the kitchen angrily, turned around and looked around. He was the only one making a sound in the quiet house. Suddenly, Xu Fei's eyes fixed on the door of the master bedroom. He strode over and banged on the door with his hand. Jiang Xia. Come out. Is that you? Are you trying to scare me by pretending to be a ghost? After knocking on the door for a long time, there was no movement in the master bedroom. Xu Fei put his ear to the door and listened carefully with bated breath. Cuckoo cuckoo. The baby's strange laughter penetrated his ears without warning. Xu Fei took a few steps back as if he had been electrocuted, and he almost had a heart attack. Okay, it's you? Humph, you think you can scare me with such a low-level method? Dream on. Xu Fei punched the door and roared, then turned and rushed into his room. When he came out, he had Bluetooth headphones on his ears. Loud music poured out from the headphones, filling his ears. Xu Fei went into the kitchen with a grim face and continued cutting vegetables. Woo woo woo. The strange sound once again entered his ears. The noisy music had no effect at all, as if it was transmitted directly into his mind. Xu Fei's scalp went numb, his hand trembled while cutting vegetables, and he almost chopped off his index finger. He couldn't stand it anymore, so he dropped the kitchen knife, rushed to the master bedroom door, banged on it for several minutes, and yelled for a long time, and finally realized that Jiang Xia was probably not in the room. He turned around and knocked on Li Shiyu's door again, but there was no response. During this time, the strange baby voice rang several times again, with no regular pattern. Sometimes it was crying, sometimes it was laughing strangely, and sometimes it was a scream full of panic. Xu Fei felt uneasy and always felt that something was staring at him on the ceiling. You bastard, you actually used such a sinister method to deal with me. Xu Fei took out his cell phone with a pale face and called the landlord without caring that it was already 12 o'clock in the evening. Hello? Uncle, it's me, Fei. Do you have the phone number of the new tenant in the master bedroom? Don't worry about what he does, just give it to me, quickly. Chapter 16. The fish finally took the bait. A few minutes later, in the boys' dormitory of Yangcheng University. Buzz buzz buzz. Jiang Xia was awakened by the vibration of his cell phone while sleeping. He fumbled around on his pillow with his eyes closed. Half asleep, he picked up the phone and raised it to his ear. Hello. Fuck you. You little bastard, are you trying to play dirty tricks on me? I'm telling you, come back and turn off that depressing thing of yours, or else don't blame me for being rude. A loud curse suddenly came from the receiver. Jiang Xia subconsciously put the phone away, opened his eyes and glanced at it, then quickly hung up. Calling in the middle of the night, how uncivilized. Mumbling something, he blocked the incoming call number, threw the phone away, turned over and continued to sleep soundly. It seems that the little ghost wall sticker is starting to show its power, but it's just the beginning, so there's no rush. Let Xu enjoy it for a few days. On the other side, the peninsular courtyard. Looking at the hung-up phone, Xu let out an angry "fuck" and called again, but the call was no longer connected. The baby's terrifying laughter rang in his ears again. Xu trembled as he took out a cigarette and lit it for himself. He took a deep breath, and a fierce look appeared in his eyes. Damn it, it's just a baby crying, what's the big deal? If I'm scared by this, I'm not Xu. He took a deep puff, pressed the cigarette into the ashtray, and strode straight to the bedroom. Bang! After closing the door, Xu lay down on the bed, pulled the quilt over him, and closed his eyes tightly. Wow! The shrill cry followed him into the bed. The next day, 7 in the morning. Xu stood in front of the bathroom sink, looking at himself in the mirror with red eyes and a haggard face, and uttered 3 words through gritted teeth: bastard. He didn't sleep all night last night. The damn sound would appear from time to time, and it didn't help even if he put on headphones and turned the music up to the maximum. What kind of speakers does this little bastard use? The quality is so good, and the sound it produces is so penetrating. Other tenants had protested to him about the noise before, but that level of noise was a piece of cake for him. He would put on his headphones and fall into a deep sleep within 5 minutes, and would not open his eyes until dawn. But this kid is so mean. They actually used this kind of hellish sound effects to deal with him, and the effect is so realistic. Bang! Xu punched the wall, stared at himself in the mirror, and said fiercely, "You little bastard, if you have the guts, just don't come back. Let's see who can outlast you." Time flies and 3 days have passed. In the afternoon, at an internet company in Yangcheng, Xu sat in front of the computer, staring blankly at the screen. At this moment, his eyes were bloodshot, his beard was untidy, his hair, which was combed meticulously in the past, was now a mess, and his clothes were wrinkled. He looked like a survivor of a plane crash, and his whole body exuded 2 words: collapse. How can I not collapse after not having a good night's sleep for 3 days? No one can stand it. He even fell into self-doubt at one point. Was that damn baby voice really just a recording? Can ordinary recordings sound so real? That kid, could he really know some weird magic like summoning ghosts? Just when Xu was half believing, a voice suddenly said behind him, "Please fix this bug. I'm in a hurry to use it." Without even turning his head, Xu said, "Leave it there." "No, why are you daydreaming? I told you to fix the bug right away. Are you deaf?" Xu frowned fiercely, and the depression, anxiety, anger and other negative emotions accumulated in his heart for several days burst out at the same time. He stood up suddenly and yelled at the person behind him, "I fucking told you to put it there. Can't you hear me?" Before he could utter the 2 words, "Do you understand?" Xu saw the person standing behind him. His ferocious expression froze and he stood there at a loss as to what to do. The person he was yelling at was the boss of this company. The big boss held a document in his hand, staring blankly for a few seconds, his facial expression quickly changing from cloudy to overcast, and then to a thunderstorm. Bang! He threw the document hard at Xu face, pointed at Xu nose and cursed, "Don't you want to do this anymore? I've been observing you in the office for 2 days, and you've been in a daze these 2 days. What's the matter? Someone died at home. Are you thinking of going back to attend the funeral? Everyone else is working, but you're the only one who's lazy, right?" The boss pointed his hand out the door and said, "Pack your things and get out. You haven't met the monthly assessment standards, and you still dare to slack off. I'm giving you face." For no apparent reason, Xu lost his job. As he left the company with his things, he looked back and cursed, "Dictator, this broken company will go bankrupt sooner or later. I don't want to work overtime anymore." After returning home, Xu threw his things on the sofa, stood there woodenly for a moment, and moved his eyes towards the master bedroom. "You little brat, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. You're not coming back, right? You think everything will be alright if you don't come back? I'll let you play the scary sound effects." He walked over quickly and kicked the master bedroom door hard. Bang! Bang! One kick after another, finally, with a click, the door was kicked open by Xu, and he rushed into the master bedroom angrily. Looking around, I didn't see any objects that looked like radios, speakers, or loudspeakers. Little bastard, where are you hiding? Xu Fei opened the closet, took out all the clothes and threw them on the floor. Nothing. I opened all the tables and cabinets, but still nothing. Under the bed, no. On the windowsill, there is no. 10 minutes later, he searched everywhere but didn't find anything suspicious. Impossible. The source of the sound must be in this room. It must be. Xu Fei grabbed his hair and turned around, then suddenly froze. Is it possible that the guy hid the things somewhere else? The living room? The kitchen? Or even picked the lock and hid it in his room? Otherwise, how come it sounds so clear outside this master bedroom? You bastard, you're plotting against me. Har har. Just wait, when I find evidence of your crime, I'll sue you till you lose everything and make you pay for my mental damages and lost wages. Xu Fei thought he had found the right direction, and with a grim smile on his face he left the master bedroom and went to rummage through drawers somewhere else. Little did he know that everything he had just done was recorded by the hidden camera, and every move he made was seen by Jiang Xia. At the same time, in the men's dormitory of Yancheng University, Jiang Xia had an idea and turned off the hidden camera. He edited the footage he had just recorded, made a folder, and saved it in his mobile phone. He patted his butt, packed his computer and school bag, said hello to his classmates, and walked out of the dormitory with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Xu Fei, Xu Fei, you've been holding it in for 4 days, and now you can't hold it in any longer. Let's see how you can continue to stay here. Chapter 17. I have the right time, place and people. Back at the peninsular courtyard, Jiang Xia pushed open the door and saw Xu Fei lying under the sofa with his butt sticking out, groping around. Hearing someone coming in, Xu Fei stopped and looked back. Seeing that the person coming in was Jiang Xia, his eyes immediately lit up. Har! You're finally back, little bastard. Tell me. Where did you hide that damn radio? He rushed up, grabbed Jiang Xia's collar and shook him hard. He looked agitated, his eyes were bloodshot, and his body was dirty. He looked like a desperate gambler, and his saliva sprayed all over Jiang Xia's face. Jiang Xia looked puzzled. Radio? What radio? What are you talking about? Xu Fei was so angry that he was panting heavily, his breathing was as heavy as a cow. Don't play dumb with me. Don't think I don't know what tricks you are playing. Let me tell you. If you dare to mess with me, you're dead. Jiang Xia raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a hint of sarcasm. Oh? How am I dead? Tell me. Xu Fei spouted out words one by one. You little bastard, don't think you can get away with using such despicable means. You caused me to lose my job and suffered great mental damage. When I find evidence, you'll go to jail. Tell me. Where did you hide that thing? Jiang Xia pried his hands apart and pushed them hard. Xu Fei, who hadn't slept for 3 days and 3 nights, had no strength to resist. He was easily pushed away and sat down on the sofa. Jiang Xia walked to the door of his room, looked at the door lock that was kicked in, then glanced at the messy scene in the room, and laughed. He threw his school bag on the bed, turned back to the living room, and stared at Xu Fei with a smile. I've never heard of the radio or anything like that. I have no idea what you're talking about. But don't get one thing wrong. It's you, not me, who's going to jail. Xu Fei was stunned for a moment. Me. Jiang Xia took out his cell phone from his pocket, clicked twice, and brought up the video shot by the hidden camera to show Xu Fei. Xu Fei looked at the phone screen in confusion. After a while, he still didn't realize the seriousness of the matter. He just frowned stupidly and asked, "Did you install a pinhole camera in the room?" When he searched, he didn't find anything that looked like surveillance. Jiang Xia put away his phone and smiled slightly. That's not the point. The point is that someone broke into my room and searched it while I was away. Oh, if I remember correctly, this constitutes the crime of trespassing, right? Let me think, how many years will I be sentenced for this crime? Boom. Hearing Jiang Xia's words, Xu Fei was shocked, and slowly opened his eyes. 3 words echoed in his mind. Hit. The plan. Worked. At this moment, he suddenly woke up and realized that he had made a fatal mistake. Illegally breaking into someone else's home may violate criminal law depending on the severity of the circumstances. After being stunned for a moment, Xu Fei quickly came to his senses, forced himself to remain calm, and laughed dryly. What illegal intrusion? I didn't do anything. Yes, if you hadn't made some strange noises in the middle of the night and made it difficult for me to rest, would I have entered your room to search? It's obviously you who made the mistake first. Jiang Xia spread his hands innocently. I've said it several times. I don't know what you are talking about. What sound? What radio? Do you have any evidence? Where is the thing you are talking about? Xu Fei opened his mouth to retort, but the words got stuck in his throat. Yeah, where is the evidence? Even if he determined that Jiang Xia was the one who made those noises, he could not find any evidence, so everything was just empty talk and speculation. Gritting his teeth, Xu Fei said in a deep voice, just because we can't find evidence now doesn't mean we'll never find it. I don't believe that we won't find it if we search this room thoroughly. Jiang Xia curled his lips. Okay, then go ahead and search. By the way, could the thing you mentioned actually be hidden in another secondary bedroom? What should we do? Do you want to kick open the door of that room and search inside? Hearing this kind reminder, Xu Fei was stunned again, with a blank expression. Yes, there is another room that is locked. It is possible that the sound came from that room. But, could he really break into that girl's room without permission in front of Jiang Xia? Isn't this obviously a trap? If not, things will be even more troublesome. Xu Fei's mind was in a mess. This wasn't right, that wasn't right. What should he do? Unable to figure it out, he simply made up his mind and said, setting me up, huh? Then I'll call the police. Let the police come and search. Jiang Xia raised his eyebrows slightly. Sure, report it. What if the police come and find nothing unusual, and don't hear the strange noises you mentioned? That would be troublesome. You'd have to choose between going to jail or to a mental hospital. Gulp. Xu Fei swallowed hard, his whole body stiffened, cold sweat flowed down his cheeks and dripped onto his collar. Before he knew it, he had reached an impasse. If I call the police, the baby's noise has been going on for several days. There is no reason why the baby would disappear when the police arrive. But what if the police can't find the baby? Wait, what if that thing can be controlled remotely? Come to think of it, I haven't heard that sound since I came back today. What if this guy turned off the sound with the remote control, and the police come and can't find any suspicious items, and can't hear that sound? Wouldn't that be like shooting themselves in the foot? Damn it. After all, I just broke into the room and searched it, and I didn't steal anything. Can this be considered illegal intrusion? Will it violate the law? What should I do? Should I take a gamble? I won't break the law, but if I lose, I will have to sacrifice my future. Damn it, damn it. I was completely led by this kid by the nose, damn it. The more Xu Fei thought about it, the more confused he became. Sweat poured down his forehead and he was completely at a loss. At this time, Jiang Xia, who had been observing his expression changes, so that the time was almost right and deliberately sneered to attract Xu Fei's attention. He took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Xu Fei, looking down at him with pity. Hey, look at how you look now, why bother? After all, there is no conflict between us that cannot be resolved. If you want me not to call the police and let you go, just agree to one condition of mine. What conditions? Xu Fei asked subconsciously in a hoarse voice. As long as you move out of here. There was a struggle in Xu Fei's eyes. He didn't want to admit defeat and was still debating whether to take the risk. Jiang Xia suddenly smiled and said in a relaxed tone, it's okay if you don't agree. Then call the police and let them handle it. As for the consequences, I don't care. As he spoke, he took out his cell phone, pressed the emergency number without hesitation, and raised it to his ear to answer the call. Wait a moment. Xu Fei suddenly growled, jumped up from the sofa, snatched his phone, and pressed the hang-up button hard. After doing this, he stood there for a long while, pursed his pale lips, slumped down on the sofa again, and closed his eyes weakly. Don't call the police. I'll just move out. After getting a satisfactory answer, Jiang Xia's face showed no surprise. The corners of his mouth turned up, revealing a smile of victory. You little brat, I have all the advantages on my side, what can you use to fight me? I have the right time, right place, and right people. Chapter 18. Eating with a beautiful woman is more tiring than fighting a war. Bite. The system prompt sounds, the task is completed, and 10 points are credited to your account. In fact, even if Xu Fei chose to call the police, Jiang Xia was not afraid. He had evidence that Xu Fei broke into their house. Xu Fei could not escape the charge of illegally entering another person's residence. If the crime was serious, he would be sentenced to prison, and if the crime was lighter, he would be detained for a few days. The little ghost wall stickers don't make any noise during the day, and the police can't stay here until night, they also have to go off work normally. To take a step back, even if the police were persuaded by Xu Fei and stayed until night, Jiang Xia could quietly peel off the little ghost wall sticker when no one was paying attention, and there would be no evidence left. Xu Fei racked his brains but could not imagine that the source of the sound of his searching the room was actually on the wall next to his door. Jiang Xia had no choice but to use this sinister method to win the battle. You can't negotiate with a man like Xu Fei, the police don't care about the matter, and the landlord can't do anything about him. What else can you do except fight poison with poison and defeat magic with magic? That night, Jiang Xia tidied up his room and had a good sleep. It was also the first good sleep he had in his new residence. The next morning, Xu Fei packed his things and moved out of room 803. After this lesson, he lost his job and his home, and he probably won't dare to harm his new roommates again. After Xu Fei left, Jiang Xia sent a message to Li Xiu, Xu Fei has moved out. You can come back to live here tonight. Not long after, Li Xiu replied, surprised you really moved away. How did you do it? Jiang Xia, move their hearts and enlighten them with reason. Li Xiu, guess whether I believe it or not, pout. Jiang Xia smiled, put down his phone and continued typing code. A few minutes later, there was a ding-dong sound, and Li Xiu sent another message, to thank you for your contribution to 803 and for driving away the pests, I will treat you to dinner tonight. See you at the Thai restaurant outside the south gate of the school at 8 o'clock. Jiang Xia was stunned for a moment, feeling a little strange. A beautiful woman invites herself to dinner? This is the first time a young lady has been married to a sedan chair. Okay. On the other side, in a classroom at Yancheng University. Li Xiu glanced at the message on the phone screen, the corners of her mouth raised, revealing an interested look. This senior Jiang is really a wonderful person. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Jiang Xia packed up and went downstairs to keep the appointment happily. After waiting outside the Thai restaurant that Li Xiu mentioned for a few minutes, Li Xiu arrived. Today, Li Xiu tied her hair with a white bow headband and wore a goose-yellow dress with knee-length hem, revealing her calves with elegant curves. She wore a pair of half-high-heeled leather shoes and carried a cream-colored single-shoulder leather bag. She looked more gentle and simple, completely different from the pure and cute style she had when I saw her last time. The only thing that remains unchanged is the beauty that still makes one's heart beat faster. Have you been waiting long? Li Xiu walked up to him, lowered her body slightly, tilted her head and asked with a smile. Jiang Xia felt his face getting hot for no apparent reason. He touched his nose and coughed softly, no, I just got here too. Come on, let's go in. I'm starving after a day of classes. After entering the restaurant, the two sat down face to face at the window seat. After ordering the dishes, they fell into silence. Jiang Xia lowered his head and fiddled with his phone for a while. He looked up inadvertently and his eyes met Li Xiu's big, bright eyes. Hey, what's wrong? Why are you staring at me? Jiang Xia felt like ants were crawling all over his body and he felt uncomfortable everywhere. Being stared at by a beautiful woman can really put a lot of pressure on people. Li Xiu crossed her fingers and held her chin. She tilted her head and looked away when she heard the words. No, I'm just curious about what method you used to make Xu Fei move out obediently. Jiang Xia, well. I told you I had been chanting the Great Compassion Mantra in my house for 3 days. Do you believe me? Pfft. Li Xiu laughed out loud, is it that simple? I don't believe it. Other tenants couldn't drive him away even with the building shaker. The Great Compassion Mantra. Could he be a Buddhist? I can't say for sure. TSK tilde if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. If you want to make up a lie, at least make it sound decent. Jiang Xia thought, if I told you that there was a crying ghost in the house for 3 days, you would have nightmares at night. At this time, the dishes they ordered arrived. Eat. I need to start eating. A whole day of classes is really exhausting. Jiang Xia's heart moved, and he asked casually, what year are you in? Why do you have so many classes? Li Xiu smiled and stared at him slyly, Have you started the interrogation? What interrogation? I just asked you casually because you mentioned that you have too many classes. Har har, I won't tease you anymore. I'm a junior, majoring in economics. I'm 20 years old this year. My birthday is June 19th. My height and weight, it's a secret. Jiang Xia was very upset. It seemed as if he was very interested in her personal information. Well, I estimate his height to be around 168 centimeters, and his weight should be over 100 kilograms, right? I finished talking. What about you? Oh, you don't have to tell me. Jiang Xia, I'm a senior majoring in Internet of Things. I was unknown before, but I became famous overnight because of the incident of a blank piece of paper occupying a seat in the library. After the live broadcast, everyone knows about it. Senior, you are now a celebrity in our school. Jiang Xia was speechless. Is this what they call good news never goes out, but bad news travels 1,000 miles? Li Xiu retorted, how can this be considered a bad thing? It was originally that girl's fault. Senior, you look so handsome during the live broadcast. Don't worry, it's a positive image. Jiang Xia scratched his head. He was praised for being handsome by a beautiful woman in front of him. TSK. Stay calm, don't get carried away. After a moment of silence, Jiang Xia lowered her head and took a bite of the curry fish cake. Suddenly, she asked, your boyfriend won't mind if you eat with me, right? As soon as he said this, he cried out, oh no, and wished he could slap himself in the face. Why does this question smell so fucking like tea? If you can't speak, don't speak. When he looked up, as expected, he met Li Xiu's teasing gaze with a half smile. The corner of Jiang Xia's eyes twitched. This guy is too smart. So smart that it's a little scary. I don't have a boyfriend. Fortunately, Li Xiu only said one sentence and didn't continue. Jiang Xia quietly wiped a cold sweat. It was really tiring to have dinner with a beautiful woman, and it was even more tiring to have dinner with a smart beautiful woman. He secretly warned himself in his heart, Jiang Xia, you and she are not from the same world, you are just a local dog, don't have any unreasonable expectations. Besides, you are a senior and he is a junior, and you are about to graduate and run away, so there is absolutely no possibility for the two of you. After taking a few deep breaths, my restless mood gradually calmed down. After finishing their meal quietly, the two returned to the peninsular courtyard, said good night to each other, and went back to their rooms. Chapter 19, Sudden Difficulties. In the next few days, nothing happened. Jiang Xia stayed at home every day writing code, frantically catching up on the progress of his graduation project. Li Xiu goes out early and comes back late every day, and the two of them only meet and say hello to each other in the evening. The third year is the year with the most courses in the 4 years of college. In addition to completing the courses required by the school, most students also have to start preparing for postgraduate entrance examinations and teacher qualification examinations. This year is also the year when the gap between students can widen the most. Jiang Xia is undoubtedly one of the people who has been left behind. He has not taken either the postgraduate or teaching qualification exams. His current wish is to graduate successfully, get his degree, and then find an internet company to join the ranks of the crazy applicants. Time passed day by day, and the day of midterm inspection came in a blink of an eye. Early in the morning, Jiang Xia finished washing up, installed his computer, put on his backpack and was about to go out when he happened to meet Li Xiu, who was wearing a little white rabbit one-piece pajamas, with messy hair and sleepy eyes, pushing the door and coming out of the room. Seeing him standing in the living room, Li Xiu raised a hand and greeted him vaguely, "Good morning, you're going out so early." Jiang Xia said, "Well, today is the midterm checkup." Li Xiu clenched her white fist and waved it, "Come on, senior." Wow. I'm so sleepy. It's a rare opportunity that I don't have an early class today. I'll sleep a little longer later. As she spoke, she staggered towards the bathroom. Her staggering appearance made Jiang Xia wonder if she would bump into the wall. After leaving the peninsular courtyard, when Jiang Xia rushed to the classroom for the midterm examination, several classmates had already arrived. Jiang Xia is here. Jiang Xia, how's your graduation project going? I don't know if this midterm inspection is strict. I haven't even started writing my thesis yet. Several people gathered together and discussed the matter. No one had much confidence in their results and intuitively felt that a storm was about to come. After waiting for about half an hour, the two teachers in charge of the midterm inspection arrived. The so-called midterm review is a meeting used to examine the progress of students' graduation projects. The reviewer will point out the problems in students' graduation projects and papers, determine the correctness of the direction, and give appropriate suggestions. There are two teachers in charge of Jiang Xia's group. One is called Qi Wang, who is in his 30s, wears black-framed glasses, has a smile on his face, and looks easy to talk to. The other was an old female teacher named Qin Shueru, who was in her 50s and exuded a somewhat stern aura. Everyone took their seats and the midterm review began. Students went on stage in an arranged order to present their graduation projects, thesis progress and content. Jiang Xia was the sixth to go on stage. After reading the reports of the first two students, he breathed a sigh of relief. Both teachers were easy to talk to. Even though the second student's graduation project looked like a piece of shit from 1982, old, rotten, and without any value, and it was completely incomprehensible what the meaning of his graduation project was, the two teachers did not harshly blame or criticize him, but patiently gave suggestions. The classmates around me whispered, "Damn, they can even pass this, it's a sure thing." Soon, it was Jiang Xia's turn to go on stage to present his graduation project. Jiang Xia walked up to the podium with his computer and connected it to the big screen. He looked up at the two teachers below the stage without feeling nervous at all. If the 5 people in front of him could pass, he can definitely pass too. His graduation project was a novel reading app, and he thought he did a much better job than the students before him. A mere midterm examination should be a piece of cake, right? Hello, teachers. My graduation project is a mobile reading app. While operating the computer, Jiang Xia explained the progress of his content and the next functional planning. He talked non-stop for more than 10 minutes and finally finished. After stopping, he looked at the two teachers expectantly, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat. Teacher Qin Shueru did not show any abnormality, but teacher Qi Wang, who was standing next to her, had an ugly look on his face. What went wrong? Before Jiang Xia could figure out what had irritated teacher Qi Wang slammed the table, shocking everyone. The whispers in the classroom disappeared instantly. Qi Wang stood up from his seat, his face was like the ocean on the eve of a storm, covered with dark clouds, and his face was almost drooping to the ground. He took a deep breath and stared at Jiang Xia sharply. "What is this that you made?" "Huh? I ask you, what did you make?" Reading app. Jiang Xia was confused by his question. Qi Wang said with a dark face, "I know the topic of your graduation project. I'm asking you, what kind of rubbish is this that you've made? Your app is a reading tool, but it doesn't even have an internet connection. How can users read? Read locally. Then why use your app? Look at your user system. It only has these few simple functions. If it can't even save personal information, what's the point of a user system? Also, your reading interface doesn't even have a way to save bookmarks. What if I can't finish a book and want to read it next time? Should I start from the beginning? Your interface layout is a piece of shit. Who taught you to do it this way? And the thesis? What the hell is written in the first 2 chapters of your thesis?" Jiang Xia stood on the podium in shock, enduring the torrential output like a chicken, his whole body numb. Why is it that when it's my turn, the style is different from that of the students before me? The problems pointed out are correct, but isn't this just nitpicking? He is a college student, just working on a graduation project. Does he really want to make the app perfect, fully functional, and comparable to regular commercial apps? What a joke! He is a college student, not an engineer. Qi Wen scolded Jiang Xia for a full 20 minutes, criticizing his graduation project and thesis framework from beginning to end, leaving no corner untouched, and scolding him thoroughly. To sum it up in 4 words, useless. Finally, Qi Wen took a deep breath, suppressed his anger, picked up the water cup and drank a sip of water, and made the final judgment in a deep voice. If you use this kind of shit to defend your graduation thesis, you'll have to wait for the second and third debates, or even have your graduation delayed. Start all over again. Get out of here. After saying that, he sat back down heavily in his seat, lowered his head and drew a few crosses on the table in front of him. Next. The atmosphere in the classroom was very heavy. The next female student left her seat tremblingly, holding her computer, and looked like she was about to cry. Jiang Xia silently packed up his computer, stepped down from the podium, and returned to his seat. Staring at the pages of codes on the notebook screen, he frowned deeply and his brain started working. He intuitively felt that there must be something fishy going on. The classmate next to him nudged him and whispered in his ear, "Don't think about it. It's not your fault. This Jiang is said to be pursuing our counselor. He must have come after you on purpose to pick on you." Grass. Jiang Xia was shocked and suddenly realized. So that's what's going on. No wonder this old guy is making things difficult for me. Chapter 20 Hu Shui, it's Hu Shui again. 2 hours later, the midterm examination was over and the students left the classroom one after another. As they walked out the door, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, Tilder, I was so scared. I thought I was going to get scolded. I was so nervous when I went on stage. Who do you think you are? I was so scared that I almost peed myself. Fortunately, I was safe. In the end, Jiang Xia was the only one who got scolded from beginning to end. It was so miserable. Xia. Stop talking, I'm behind you. Jiang Xia followed at the back of the group with a gloomy face. 2 classmates who were on good terms with him comforted him. Don't think too much. It's not your fault. Your graduation project is already excellent in our group. You are just being targeted. Yes, Jiang is obviously trying to embarrass you on purpose. It's no wonder. After all, Hu Shui is the niece of the school's vice president, and he is pursuing Hu Shui. How could he not make things difficult for you? Jiang Xia paused and asked in surprise, Hu Shui is the vice president's niece? Which vice president? Hu Wei, the short, fat guy with gold-rimmed glasses. I saw him at the sports meet. Jiang Xia had an impression in his mind. So it was him. I was wondering, I complained to the director of the student affairs office about Hu Shui, but nothing happened to Hu Shui. It turns out he has someone above him. The student who broke the news patted him on the shoulder and sighed, don't think about it. You can't beat Hu Shui, and there's no need to be angry with her. We're graduating soon, why bother with her? What you should be thinking about now is how to revise your graduation project and thesis. Another person echoed, that's right. Although we don't know who the teacher in charge of our defense is yet, what if Hu Shui intervenes and targets us? For her, letting you enter the second debate is just a matter of saying hello. Jiang Xia frowned, feeling a headache as he recalled the harsh words Hu Shui said when she left the cafeteria. There was no doubt that Hu Shui would not miss the opportunity to mess with him during the defense. His previous worries came true. As early as the night when he had a conflict with Hu Shui in the cafeteria, his roommates had reminded him that Hu Shui might retaliate during the defense. At that time, Jiang Xia thought that Hu Shui, a counselor, should not be able to take such lenient measures. Now it seems that he still underestimated the power of Hu Shui's background. If he does not change the content of his graduation project and continues in this way, the teacher can simply say that he does not respect the teacher's opinions, did not complete the project as required, or just give him a random title and send him to the second debate. Threatening to graduate is more than just talk. But now I have to start over again with less than 2 months left. Is it too late? Damn it. This Hu Shui is so despicable. He did something wrong, he has a bad moral character, but he doesn't repent, instead he does something to trip up students. Is such a person qualified to be a college counselor? Screw him. Ding. The host's emotions are fluctuating greatly. Please make a choice. 1. Go to Hu Shui's house to apologize and beg her to let you go. You will be given the title, loser dog, and will be listless and have a poor appetite for a week. All status values will be reduced by half, and your reputation value will be reduced by 1. 2. She would rather die than surrender. Such a person is not worthy of being a university counselor. Kick her out of the teaching staff. Obtained item, perfect graduation project, X1. After use, it can generate a perfect graduation project and thesis, and allow the user to fully master it. After completion, you will receive 50 points and your reputation will increase by 1. Damn, it's like giving you a pillow when you're sleepy. I love you, system. Jiang Xia's spirits lifted and he felt at peace. Do you still need to answer this kind of multiple choice question? You must choose 2. As long as the graduation project problem is solved, Hu Shui's little tricks will no longer be a threat. As for how to complete the task, after a little thought, Jiang Xia decided to rely on the power of online public opinion. It has been more than a week since he sent the complaint email to the Municipal Education Bureau, but it has fallen into oblivion without any ripples. It is possible that it was suppressed by Vice Principal Hu. Since the right way doesn't work, we have to find another way. You guys go back to the dormitory. I have something else to do. I'm leaving first. After saying hello to his classmates, Jiang Xia put on his school bag and headed straight for the peninsular courtyard. After returning home, he turned on his computer, saved the complete video of the queue jumping incident that was previously captured by the hidden camera, edited it, and opened Douyin. Jiang Xia had not used Douyin since the last live confrontation with Pang Xiaohuan. When he logged into his account, he found that the number of followers, which originally only consisted of single digits, had exceeded 2,000 at some point, and there were many more messages in the private messages received. He took a quick glance and ignored all the meaningless chatter and greetings. After tidying his hair and straightening his clothes, Jiang Xia cleared his throat and turned on the camera. Hello everyone, I am Jiang Xia, a senior student at Yancheng University. Here, I report Hu Shui, a counselor of the 2019 Internet of Things major at the School of Computer Science of Yancheng University, for openly leading people to cut in line in the cafeteria. After being rejected, she not only refused to correct her behavior, but also threatened and intimidated students. I have reported Hu Shui's inappropriate behavior to the school and other departments, but it has not attracted any attention. I have no choice but to post the full story online, hoping that the school and Yancheng Education Bureau will pay attention to it and not allow such an unworthy person to stay in the university to poison students' minds and corrupt the atmosphere of teachers and students. After recording the short video, Jiang Xia posted the video shot by the hidden camera on the back, with the caption, "A counselor from Yancheng University openly cut in line and insulted and threatened students after being stopped," and then posted it on his Douyin account. After completing Pang Xiaohuan's task last time, the system rewarded me with some reputation points. This should refer to things like fame and prestige. The higher the value, the easier it is for my actions to be noticed by others and spread. Jiang Xia said to himself. Well, let's see if this video can generate some buzz. If not, we might have to spend money to buy traffic. After turning off Douyin, Jiang Xia received the perfect graduation project. He was very curious about how perfect the perfection that the system spoke of was. The moment you receive the item. Boom! Jiang Xia's whole body trembled, his pupils constricted, and it was as if a supernova explosion had occurred in his brain. A large amount of knowledge swarmed in like snowflake fragments, continuously pouring into his mind. A series of complex codes flashed before his eyes. Jiang Xia's brain quickly understood the logic and meaning behind these codes at an unimaginable speed, and engraved them deeply into his heart, never to be forgotten. After an unknown amount of time, the gushing of knowledge gradually stopped, Jiang Xia's body softened, and he almost fell off the stool. Call. He let out a long breath, shook his head vigorously, blinked his eyes, and a look of shock appeared on his face. How amazing! Is this the power of a perfect graduation project? It's incredible. After a moment's pause, he operated the computer and deleted the half-finished graduation project that Qi Wen criticized as worthless. Then, his fingers flew, typing on the keyboard without stopping for a second. Har har, with this, thesis defense is nothing. I'll surprise all of you. Chapter 21. Let's make a bet. That night, Jiang Xia worked hard until 1:30 in the morning. He was so exhausted that he simply took a shower and fell into a deep sleep on the bed. The next day, I opened my eyes, sat in front of the computer, and started typing code. He kept knocking until 5 in the afternoon, then he stood up from the stool, rubbing his aching waist, went downstairs to get some fresh air, and found a place to eat. After walking around the community, Jiang Xia found a rice noodle shop, ordered a set meal, sat down, took out his cell phone, and waited for the food to be served. I opened Douyin and found that the video I posted yesterday has nearly 10,000 views and 500 comments. Jiang Xia clicked on the comments section and read through them one by one. The comments were all filled with criticism of Hu Shui. It seemed like everyone had the same opinion. Can such a person be a university teacher? I thought he was a scoundrel. My child knows not to cut in line when he is 5 years old. How did she become a counselor? As a fellow faculty member, we have lost all our face. I don't know whether the guy in the video will be beaten by society, but the woman will definitely be beaten. After watching for a while, the rice noodles were served. Jiang Xia turned off Douyin and concentrated on eating. The video has started to attract attention, but this level of popularity is not enough and needs to ferment further. After dinner, Jiang Xia returned home and uploaded the recording he had made in the office, briefly introducing the background of the matter. Some time ago, I had a conflict with a girl in the school library. Hu Shui didn't ask me the reason, but called me to her office and scolded me, asking me to apologize to her. At that time, the library incident had already been classified by the police, and the girl apologized and compensated me at the request of the police. Against this background, Hu Shui made a blind conclusion without knowing the truth of the matter and favored the girl. It makes people doubt whether she really has the ability to distinguish right from wrong and whether she is really qualified for the job of a university counselor. This recording will help everyone better understand what kind of person Director Hu is, and it can also serve as evidence for my previous video. Please make your own judgment after watching it. Due to the popularity of the previous video, after this video was released, a chain effect was formed, and the exposure of both videos increased rapidly. At one time, many users flocked to the comment section. My family is so amused. Does she think she has more power than the police? I can testify. The incident in the library was definitely not my brother's fault. Isn't this counselor a complete hypocrite? Fuck, a 5,000-word self-review. How dare you say that? I've never seen a 5,000-word self-review in my entire life. Looking at the skyrocketing views and comments on the two videos, Jiang Xia nodded with satisfaction. If things continued like this, it wouldn't be long before the pressure would be put on the Municipal Education Bureau and the schools. Not to mention that Hu Shui is their vice principal's niece. Even if the principal is her father, she would not be able to remain unscathed in the face of huge public opinion. After browsing Douyin for a while, Jiang Xia put down his phone and continued to devote himself to the huge coding project. Posting the video to expose Hu Shui's behavior is an offensive means, and completing the graduation project is a defensive means. Offense alone is not enough, defense work must also be done well, so that he can bring down Hu Shui without hurting himself. Soon, another day passed. The next morning, Yancheng University. Hu Shui and Qi Wen were chatting and laughing in the office when they suddenly received a phone call. After picking up the phone and saying a few words, Hu Shui's face changed, and he stood up and shouted angrily, "What? He dares!" What else was said on the other end of the phone? Hu Shui's face became more and more ugly, and her eyes almost spit fire. Okay, I understand. Let's do this for now. After hanging up the phone, she slammed the phone on the table angrily and said through gritted teeth, "I will never forgive this Jiang Xia. If he can graduate, I will take his last name." Qi Wen frowned and asked, "What's wrong? What happened to that kid?" Hu Shui sat down on the office chair angrily, grabbed the pens and small objects on the table and threw them to the ground. This little bastard actually posted the video recorded in the cafeteria online. Also, when I was scolding him for the library incident, the audio was secretly recorded. Now it is said that it has spread online and has been viewed hundreds of thousands of times. The school couldn't stand the pressure and asked me to suspend my job for a month to undergo an inspection and education. I am so pissed off. Qi Wen also cursed, "What a cunning boy. I thought the midterm inspection would give him a warning, so that he would come to you to admit his mistakes. I didn't expect that he is so brave that he would rather fight to the death with you. A desperate struggle. Does he deserve it?" Hu Shui said sharply, her eyes wide open. This little jerk who came from nowhere, even killing him can't make up for the loss of my reputation. After a pause, she became angrier and slammed the table. "We can't just let this go. If he dares to provoke me, I'll kill him." Seeing that Hu Shui was about to lose control, Qi Wen hurriedly comforted her, "Don't get excited, don't get excited. It's only a 1-month suspension. Just treat it as a vacation. There's no need to get upset over this. But, as for that kid, we really can't just let him go like this." Hu Shui squinted at him and asked, "Do you have an idea?" Qi Wen smiled coldly, "Doesn't he want to graduate? I severely criticized his graduation project before, and now he must be very busy and exhausted, revising his graduation project and thesis. Let's do this." He leaned over and whispered something into Hu Shui's ear. Hu Shui's eyes lit up as she listened, and she slapped her thigh excitedly. "What a great idea. This way, he will definitely take the bait, and then not only will he not be able to graduate, he will be expelled from school anyway." Qi Wen smiled proudly. "However, you have to find the person to implement this plan. You are the instructor of their major, and I am not familiar with the students of the Internet of Things. Don't mention this little thing. As soon as this plan came out, I immediately thought of a suitable candidate. In the evening, Jiang Xia finished typing the last line of code, stretched hard, opened the door and prepared to go to the bathroom. The lights were on in the living room. Li Xiyu had returned at some point and was sitting on the sofa playing with her phone. "You're back." Jiang Xia greeted. Li Xiyu raised her head and smiled. "Senior, graduation is approaching. Are you going to condense 4 years of silence into the last 2 months and explode at once? You are really amazing with all these big moves one after another." Jiang Xia scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. "Have you seen the video I posted? Damn, if someone is bullied, you can't just keep silent and endure it. I'm the one who's right, why should I give in to them?" Li Xiyu asked curiously. "You're making such a big fuss, aren't you afraid that the counselor will give you trouble? As far as I know, the counselor named Hu Shui has a strong background. It seems that one of the vice presidents of our school is her relative." "Hu Wei, right? I know. So what if he has a backer? A passionate man will never bow to power." Puff. Li Xiyu was so amused by the way he swore with his fist that she doubled over. She covered her stomach and waved her hands, saying, "Oh no, that's too childish. Senior, why are you so funny?" After laughing for a while, she turned serious and said, "But many times, even if you stand on the side of justice and reason, you may not have the last laugh. Believe it or not, the video you posted can only cause Hu Shui to be suspended for a period of time at most. After that time is over, she will be the same as before, and nothing will change." Jiang Xia stared at her quietly for a few seconds, and suddenly an idea came to his mind. "Since you are so sure, how about we make a bet?" Chapter 22. There is definitely something fishy here. Li Xiyu was stunned. "What bet? Didn't you say Hu Shui would be fine? I bet she will get the punishment she deserves in the end." Li Xiyu blinked and smiled happily. "Okay, what's the bet?" Jiang Xia thought for a moment. "This. I haven't thought about it yet. How about whoever loses the bet agrees to a condition from the other party? Don't worry, it can only be a moderate request. If you feel it's inappropriate, you have the right to refuse." Li Xiyu chuckled and said, "Can you still refuse? Then what's the point of betting on winning or losing?" Under the gaze of her clear and bright eyes, Jiang Xia suddenly felt that all his inner thoughts were exposed, and he scratched his head awkwardly. "Isn't this for your own good?" Li Xiyu put away her smile and nodded seriously. "Okay, it's settled then. When I win, you must be prepared to be punished. I will not show mercy." Jiang Xia felt relieved for some reason and said with a smile, "We'll talk about it after you win." The next day, Jiang Xia was writing a paper when Wei Yixin suddenly rang. When I clicked on it, I saw that it was a message from a classmate in the same major named Jiang Xiang. Jiang Xiang is a thin boy with freckles on his face. He always wears a pair of thick black framed glasses. He is rather dull and doesn't talk much, and has a low presence in the class. Jiang Xia and he had an average relationship, and they only greeted each other when they met. Why did he suddenly contact him? With some doubts, Jiang Xia opened the WeChat public account. Jiang Xia, I heard that you were scolded by the teacher during the midterm examination yesterday." Jiang Xia's face turned dark. Could this guy be trying to make fun of him on purpose? He typed back, "Oh, don't mention it, what's wrong?" "Jiang, I heard that teacher Qi Wen asked you to start over with your graduation project." Jiang Xia, that's what happened. "Jiang, what are you going to do? Is it too late to start over again?" "Jiang Xia, is it okay? What's wrong?" "Jiang, I know someone here who is a programmer. He can help people with graduation projects. The fee is not high. Do you want to try?" Looking at the screen, Jiang Xia burst into laughter. So it was because of this. He shook his head and replied, "Thanks, but no thanks, I can handle it myself." After turning off the Wei Yixin phone, Jiang Xia continued to work on his paper. Unexpectedly, not long after, the Wei Yixin phone started ringing again. "It's still Jiang. There's only a little over a month left before the defense. If you write it yourself now, it will definitely be too late. This guy I know has great skills. You said I introduced him to you, so there's a discount. Many people in our major find people to do their graduation projects online." Jiang Xia sighed. This classmate Zhao is really kind-hearted, but it's a pity that he used his kindness in the wrong place. He declined again. Har, it's okay, I think it's safer to do it myself. This time, the prestige message was silent for 2 minutes. Just when Jiang Xia thought that Zhao Ziyan would not send messages to disturb him again, the prestige message rang again. Hiss, is this person really stubborn? He keeps posting even when others don't agree. Jiang Xia opened the chat box with some headache. Zhao Ziyan, but wasn't your last graduation project criticized by the teacher? What if you do it again and it still doesn't meet the standards? It will be too late to find other ways by then. The person I recommend to you is very capable and really cheap. You can contact him first to learn more before making a decision. Thesis defense is the most important thing for us right now. It's related to graduation. I think you should think about it carefully. Jiang Xia rubbed his brows. Why did Zhao Ziyan suddenly care about him so much? He spoke as if he was only thinking about him. Could this guy be a gay? He felt a chill, thought about it carefully, and shook his head again. It's impossible. If he was really gay, how could he have hidden for 4 years without being discovered? Maybe this guy gets a kickback for helping others. Or earns referral fees. While making random guesses, Jiang Xia put his hands on the keyboard and was about to reject Zhao Ziyan for the 3rd time when suddenly a flash of lightning struck his mind and he keenly smelled something wrong. Wait, as the saying goes, if someone shows kindness for no reason, he is either a traitor or a thief. Zhao Ziyan is usually such an honest and dull person, he doesn't look like the type to do something like this. He suddenly came to me so enthusiastically, and kept asking me to buy the graduation equipment through the person he introduced. Could this guy have been instructed by someone? Ever since he was severely scolded by Qi Wen for no apparent reason during the midterm defense, Jiang Xia became more cautious. He realized that Hu Shui had not let him go and was secretly setting a trap for him. If that's the case, could Zhao Ziyan's sudden and very strange behavior also be? After frowning and thinking for a while, Jiang Xia changed his tone and said, "What you said makes sense. Then give me the contact information of that person. I will check it out first." Zhao Ziyan quickly sent a message, "Okay." Then he sent me a link to the Second-Hand Fish app. Jiang Xia copied the link and opened Second-Hand Fish. It was an account with an IP located in Shancheng. The name of the account was Bold But Stronger. He introduced himself as a programmer with 10 years of experience who specialized in answering various programming questions. Jiang Xia casually said, Hello, I was introduced by a classmate. I heard that you accept orders for undergraduate graduation projects here." 10 minutes later, Bold But Stronger replied, "Well, topic, requirements. How much does it cost to make a graduation project?" Bold But Also Stronger, "It depends on the specific needs, I can only give you a price after you tell me." Jiang Xia touched his chin, and with his fingers flying, he typed out his thesis topic and functional requirements in full. He also specially added a few functions that Qi Wen asked him to add during the midterm review. After a while, Boldy became stronger and replied, 1,000, including thesis. 1,000 yuan including thesis. Jiang Xia blinked. This price is too low. Many of the requirements he raised have gone beyond the scope of a normal college student's graduation project and are rather difficult to implement. According to what he learned from his classmates, this obviously beyond the scope requirement would have to be at least 1,500 yuan to be reasonable, not to mention that it also included a thesis. There is something fishy, absolutely something fishy. Jiang Xia immediately became alert, thought again and typed, 500. No bargaining. There was no movement on the other side of the screen for a long time. It seemed that the other party was speechless because his lion had opened its mouth wide and was cut in half. If it were a normal person, he would definitely call the person idiot and block him. Even if he had a better temper, he would still make some sarcastic remarks. 500 yuan. The donkey of the production team pulled the mill twice and it cost more than that. Isn't this a pure insult? After a long time, Boldy became stronger and sent a message, "It's too low, I can't do it. Your function requirement is very complicated, and it will take a long time to do it. Add a little more, 800, and I will do it for you." Chapter 23 Preparation Before the Defense. At this point, Jiang Xia has basically confirmed that this bold but strong guy is definitely an undercover sent by Hu Shui. In an instant, he understood Hu Shui's intention. Did they want to trick him into buying his graduation project online, and then have Zhao Ziyan report it during the defense, thus accusing him of academic fraud? If Hu Shui succeeded, he might be expelled from school, and he wouldn't even be able to get his diploma, let alone his degree certificate. So cruel. Jiang Xia felt a chill on his back. Fortunately, he had been on guard and noticed the trick in time. If he hadn't had the confidence given by the system's perfect graduation project, he might not have been able to resist the temptation of this trap. Once he fell into it, there would be no chance of recovery. You set up this trap to prevent me from graduating. Hu Shui, you really don't have any sense of propriety and honor as a teacher. Gritting his teeth and cursing silently, Jiang Xia typed a reply. Just 500. Not a cent more. At the same time, on the other side, in Qi Wang's office. Looking at the message sent by Jiang Xia, Qi Wang was so angry that his mouth was crooked. 500 yuan for a graduation project? Why doesn't this guy go grab it? Even cabbage is not that cheap. He typed with a sullen face, 500 is really not possible, you can add a little, 700, this is the lowest bottom line. As soon as the message was sent, I received a reply. It's not that I don't want to give more, I just have 500 on me, big brother, please be flexible. Your mother. Qi Wang almost blurted out the Chinese quintessence, and his face turned even darker. This kid is so annoying. If he hadn't considered that he was setting a trap to trick this kid, he would have called and scolded Jiang Xia severely to vent his anger. You want someone to do your graduation project for just 500 yuan? Fuck you. Although he was angry, Qi Wang suppressed his anger and typed, okay, since it's an old customer's recommendation, 500 is 500, but the thesis is not included. After a few seconds, the other party replied, okay. The deal was done. Qi Wang threw his phone onto the table and cursed angrily, fuck. In the next few days, after Jiang Xia finished writing his thesis, he fell into a state of doing nothing. All the details of the perfect graduation project are deeply engraved in his mind. It can be said that this graduation project is now made by him personally. He knows exactly what each line of code means, what its function is, how it works, and how to modify the presentation effect. Even if an experienced programmer with 20 years of experience came, he wouldn't be able to find any fault with him. Just based on this point, he was destined to be the most handsome guy in this year's graduation thesis defense. Time flies, more than a month has passed, and the day for the graduation thesis defense is approaching. During this period, the case between him and Pang Xiaowan finally went to trial. Faced with the solid evidence presented by Jiang Xia, Pang Xiaowan had no power to fight back. The entire judgment was just a formality, and the verdict was announced without any suspense. Pang Xiaowan was sentenced to 1 year and 3 months in prison for insult and defamation, suspended for 1 year, and ordered to pay Jiang Xia 20,000 yuan in mental damages. Jiang Xia was surprised to receive such a large compensation. One could only say that Pang Xiaowan was asking for trouble by jumping too much on the internet. After the trial, Pang Xiaowan's mother and Pang Xiaowan hugged each other and cried bitterly. Pang's father glared at Jiang Xia as if he wanted to eat him up. In response, Jiang Xia shook his head and put it behind him after walking out of the court. Some people are not worthy of pity. A few days passed, and there was still a week before the defense. Bold but Strong sent a message saying that the graduation project was finally completed. After receiving the graduation project, Jiang Xia opened the code and read it through. They were both reading apps, and used the same language. With the knowledge base of a perfect graduation project, Jiang Xia could almost understand most of the code given to him. As for the unclear parts, he could figure them out by searching on the internet. Based on this graduation project, he hurriedly wrote a paper, but when he submitted the electronic version of the paper, he still submitted the perfect graduation project. 2 days before the graduation thesis defense, the defense groups were announced. There were 3 defense teachers in Jiang Xia's group, and Qi Wang's name was among them. In the evening, Jiang Xia invited Zhao Xiang out for dinner. At the dinner table, Jiang Xia ordered a bottle of beer and kept pouring it to Zhao Xiang. Zhao Xiang was resistant at first, and his eyes were always evasive when facing Jiang Xia. Jiang Xia pretended not to notice and focused on persuading him to drink. If you hadn't introduced me this time, my graduation project would have been ruined. Just for this, you have to drink at least 3 cups. We were classmates for 4 years, and I hardly ever talked to you. Now that I think about it, I was wrong. Come, I'll toast you 3 glasses. After we graduate, we'll have to keep in touch more. Come, let's have 3 more drinks. Zhao Xiang was an honest man, so how could he resist his pestering? He kept saying he didn't want to drink, and soon his eyes became blurry, he staggered, and fell headfirst on the dining table. Jiang Xia raised the half-raised glass and poured all the wine into the trash can behind him. With a clear look in his eyes, he stood up and took out a cell phone from Zhao Xiang's pocket. After unlocking the phone using Zhao Xiang's fingerprint, he first looked through the call records and saw the word "counselor" at a glance. After clicking on it, it was found that from April 20th to 24th, that is, the days after he released the video exposing Hu Shui, Zhao Xiang and Hu Shui had 7 phone calls, with the duration of the calls ranging from 1 minute to more than 10 minutes. He opened Penguin again, found the chat box with Hu Shui, scrolled up a few times, and his eyes lit up. That's it. Har, now you can't run away. Taking out his cell phone, Jiang Xia took 7 or 8 photos of the chat history and call records as evidence. After finishing, he put the phone back into Zhao Xiang's pocket. Everything is ready, only the east wind is missing. When the poisonous snake lurking in the dark shows its fangs to him, it is time for him to counterattack and kill. 2 days later, it was the day of the graduation thesis defense. Early in the morning, Jiang Xia packed up and prepared to go out. Li Xiu heard the noise, opened the door and came out, cheering him up. "Senior, are you going to defend your thesis today? Come on." Jiang Xia smiled mysteriously. "Wait for my good news. Tonight, I will be the focus of everyone's talk in the whole school." Li Xiu was confused. "What the hell, what are you going to do?" "You'll find out tonight." After saying this, Jiang Xia pushed the door open and headed straight for school. When they arrived outside the defense classroom, several classmates had arrived early. Jiang Xia greeted them and they stood together chatting and bragging. After a while, 3 teachers in charge of the defense came from the end of the corridor. Everyone stood obediently against the wall. Jiang Xia stood at the end. When Qi Wang passed in front of him, he suddenly looked up and smiled at Qi Wang. Qi Wang. Chapter 24, You Kid is going to defy the heaven. Walking into the classroom and sitting in the middle seat, Qi Wang was full of doubts. What does that boy mean by smiling at me? Last time I deliberately made things difficult for him and gave that kid a good scolding. Shouldn't he hate myself? Could it be that he wanted to please me because I was the defense teacher and begged me to let him go this time? Qi Wang unconsciously curled up the corners of his mouth, revealing a deep sneer. Humph. Brat, you bargained so hard for me, and you dared me to do his graduation project for only 500 yuan. Today, I must let him know that there is no such thing as a free lunch. It's almost time. Tell the students outside to start. After a while, the first student who was defending his thesis walked in nervously with his computer in his arms, and the defense officially began. Qi Wang flipped through the list and saw Jiang Xia's name was 13th. By the time it was this kid's turn, it would probably be almost noon. When Qi Wang thought about the look of fear and despair on this kid's face when he exposed the source of his graduation thesis while standing on the podium, he couldn't help but laugh, and he looked forward to the upcoming defense even more. Time passed quickly. 1, 2, 3. 3 hours passed in a flash, and finally, it was number 13's turn. Next, Jiang Xia, number 14 is ready. Hearing Jiang Xia's name, Qi Wang, who was already a little drowsy, suddenly perked up, straightened his back and looked towards the door. Squeak. The door opened. Jiang Xia walked up to the podium respectfully with a notebook in his arms, and bowed. "Dear teachers, I am Jiang Xia, and my defense topic is the development and design of smart reading app in the new era." The old professor sitting on the left waved his hand and said, "No more nonsense, let's get started." Qi Wang watched Jiang Xia operate on the stage with an expressionless face. A familiar app style was projected on the big screen. It's done. Qi Wang clenched his fists tightly under the table. He felt a little excited but also relieved. He was afraid that this kid would not be able to complete the graduation project he had made for him due to some unexpected reasons, and his plan would be aborted halfway. Fortunately, no accident happened. This silly boy had no idea that he had stepped into a fatal trap and was about to face the biggest blow in his life. On the stage, Jiang Xia began to introduce the various functions of the app. Qi Wang listened for a while with a stern face, quietly waiting for Jiang Xia to reveal a flaw so that he could give him a fatal blow. Jiang Xia spoke incessantly for 7 or 8 minutes without any stumbling, with a calm expression and clear logic, without any nervousness. His confident and generous demeanor greatly increased the other 2 defense teachers' favorable impression of him. Qi Wang was also a little surprised. He was the one who did Jiang Xia's graduation project, and he knew the content of it best. It seems that this guy has done enough homework in advance and has figured out the key points and highlights of the graduation project. He should have read the code carefully several times and can say everything that needs to be said. If he didn't know the boy well, he would have really thought that this perfect graduation project was done by the boy himself. But Qi Wang sneered secretly. There were several key places in this graduation project. He deliberately made some tricks in it. As long as he grasped these points, he could expose Jiang Xia's true colors and reveal the fact that this graduation project was not written by him. He coughed heavily and cleared his throat. When Jiang Xia turned his gaze towards him, Qi Wen pretended to be calm and said, "Well, Jiang Xia, right. Not bad. It seems that you have listened to what I said to you during the midterm inspection, and your graduation project has been improved very well. But there are a few questions that I need to test you on." Jiang Xia smiled and said, "Teacher Qi, please speak." Qi Wen asked the first question. "In your app, I saw an animation effect of dragging and sliding, similar to the stacking of bank cards. How did you achieve this?" As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Xia answered without thinking, "This effect uses a custom control. The specific implementation method is to first customize a layout manager." Jiang Xia spoke continuously for 3 minutes, and Qi Wen in the audience was stunned and a little surprised. The UI effect he pointed out was not very difficult to implement, but it was something that was not mentioned in the university curriculum and was a relatively complicated function for college students. He thought Jiang Xia would know nothing about it, but he actually gave him an answer, and answered it so well. After Jiang Xia finished speaking, it took Qi Wen 5 seconds to come back to his senses. He frowned slightly and thought to himself, "Don't panic, there will be more difficult questions waiting for you. Then tell me more about how you designed and implemented the database used in your app." The database part is the most important part of the computer department's graduation project, and it is also a relatively complex part. Many students have only a vague understanding of this, and it is considered good enough if they can master adding, deleting, modifying, and checking. The database designed by Qi Wen in this graduation project is more complicated than ordinary databases and has many more things. Not to mention ordinary students, even computer industry practitioners with 1 or 2 years of work experience will be confused if they are not careful. He just didn't believe that Jiang Xia had done any research on this. On the stage, facing Qi Wang's aggressive gaze, Jiang Xia's expression did not change at all, and he answered immediately, "For the database part, I used MySQL database to build it." This time, Jiang Xia spoke for 5 minutes without stopping, explaining the construction and functions of the database in a simple and easy to understand way. The 3 teachers in the audience were stunned. Generally speaking, it is enough for college students to graduate if they can master the SQLite database proficiently. Their MySQL database is more complicated than SQLite. Being able to use it proficiently is enough to achieve an excellent graduation project. The other 2 teachers were just surprised, but Qi Wen thought it was weird. It took only 1 week from the time he handed this graduation project to Jiang Xia to today's defense. This week, Jiang Xia also has to rush to write his thesis. Where does he find the time to slowly study the database in the code? Could it be that this guy has already dabbled in MySQL database before? Qi Wen swallowed his saliva calmly, suppressed his confusion, and secretly told himself, "It's okay, don't worry, even if this question can't stump him, Jiang Xia will definitely not be able to answer the third question he asked next." He took a deep breath, looked at me fiercely and said in a deep voice, "That's a good answer. Then, can you tell me more about web crawlers? I see that your graduation project has some networking functions and can download books from the internet. How did you do this?" "I can't answer that. I can't answer that. This kid definitely can't answer this." Qi Wen stared at Jiang Xia and roared silently in his heart. The part about web crawlers is not covered in the courses offered by the Internet of Things major, and the crawler technology he used in this graduation project is relatively complicated. A novice would definitely feel dizzy after reading it, let alone figure out the tricks involved. If this kid can even answer this, it's really weird. Amid Qi Wang's silent roar, Jiang Xia smiled calmly on the podium and said, "The web crawler part is quite complicated. I use data packet capture." As Qi Wang was talking, he slowly opened his mouth, his eyes widened, and he stared at the figure on the podium in horror and disbelief. He was completely frozen as if he was hit by a thunderbolt from the sky. This kid trying to defy the will of heaven. Chapter 25, Making a Fool of You. 10 minutes later, Jiang Xia finished speaking. "Shut up, and looked at the audience with a smile. Bang bang bang. After a moment's silence, the old professor suddenly stood up and led the applause, his eyes full of approval. Good, good. You explained it very well. I can understand it so thoroughly. It shows that you have worked hard on your graduation project. It's rare to see students nowadays who can take their graduation projects so seriously. Another defense teacher nodded and agreed. Indeed, I think you can consider competing for the excellent graduation project quota. The hope is very high. The students waiting in the corridor outside heard applause coming from inside the house and were all surprised. They leaned on their windows to look inside, not knowing what was going on. At this moment, Qi Wang, who had been gloomy and silent all the time, finally couldn't bear it anymore. He slammed the table and exploded. Shameless. So shameless. His sudden roar startled the old professor and another teacher. The old professor asked in confusion, Teacher Qi, what's wrong? Qi Wen put on a look of great grief and pointed his finger at Jiang Xia on the stage. You are so good, Jiang Xia. I wanted to save your face and hope that you could stop before it is too late and admit your mistakes. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. Are you still planning to keep us in the dark at this time? The old professor was confused by his sudden change of attitude. Teacher Qi, what's wrong with you? Is there any problem with Jiang Xia's graduation project? Question. Qi Wen sneered, this is a big problem. Jiang Xia, do you want to tell me yourself, or wait for me to expose you? Jiang Xia looked puzzled and shrugged innocently. What? Teacher Qi, I don't understand what you mean. Okay. You're just being stubborn, aren't you? Qi Wen narrowed his eyes, his gaze cold and sharp. Let me ask you, did you do this graduation project by yourself? Jiang Xia did not answer, but asked, what exactly does Teacher Qi want to say? Qi Wang, who stood up and pointed at him, saying word by word, you still don't want to admit it. This graduation project was not made by you at all. You bought it online, am I right? As soon as these words were spoken, the old professor and another teacher on the side immediately changed their expressions. Teacher Qi, you can't joke about this kind of thing, said the old professor solemnly. Qi Wen snorted coldly, are you kidding? Just ask him and you'll know. On the podium, Jiang Xia remained calm from beginning to end, and even when he was exposed by Qi Wang on the spot, his expression did not change at all. Seeing that the three teachers were all looking at him, he smiled slightly and said calmly, Teacher Qi, you said that this graduation project was not done by me. Do you have any evidence? It is not the behavior of a university teacher to frame someone without any evidence. Qi Wang frowned slightly, not quite understanding why he could still be so calm at this time. But now that things had come to this point, the arrow had been on the string and had to be shot, and he had no time to delve into the issue. You want evidence? Okay, then I'll give you evidence. Zhao Xiang, come in. Outside the door, Zhao Xiang was watching a show among the crowd. He was startled when he suddenly heard Qi Wen calling his name. He pointed at his nose, dumbfounded. Wasn't this what we agreed upon? Seeing no movement outside the door for a long time, Qi Wen frowned, turned his head through the window and glared at Zhao Xiang fiercely, and shouted again, Zhao Xiang. Come in quickly. After a moment, Zhao Xiang nervously pushed the door open, stood beside the podium, and timidly bowed his head and saluted, Hello, teacher. Qi Wen said coldly, stand up straight. Let me ask you, did you know that Jiang Xia hired someone to do his graduation project for him? Zhao Xiang's heart skipped a beat, his mind was in a mess, and he subconsciously wanted to lie, no. Huh. Qi Wen glared at him fiercely. Zhao Xiang was so frightened that he shuddered and quickly changed his words, I know. He was almost crying with anxiety. Didn't they say that he only needed to introduce the account to Jiang Xia and that would be the end of it? They didn't say there would be a confrontation in class. Qi Wen was cursing in his heart. He never thought that even though he deliberately delayed handing in his graduation project to Jiang Xia until a week before the defense, this guy would be able to fully understand all the codes in such a short time, and none of the 3 questions he prepared in advance could stump him. Originally, as long as Jiang Xia couldn't answer his questions, he could take advantage of the situation and question the origin of Jiang Xia's graduation project. Didn't you say this was your own graduation project? Do you know nothing about the code you wrote? Do you have no idea how the function is implemented? There must be something fishy going on here. Then, with a little more investigation, they could accuse Jiang Xia of academic fraud and request the school to expel him. But he had planned everything, but he didn't expect Jiang Xia to answer every question fluently. So he couldn't raise any reasonable suspicion. He could only forcibly bring out the whistleblower and temporarily add such a scene to let Zhao Xiang directly prove that Jiang Xia cheated. Fortunately, after getting involved in this matter, Zhao Xiang and he are now in the same boat, and he is not afraid that Zhao Xiang will not do what he wants, unless this kid doesn't want to graduate either. Looking at Zhao Xiang's cowardly look, he seems to have no courage at all. Qi Wen sneered obscurely and looked at Jiang Xia sternly. Jiang Xia, what do you think? Are you familiar with this person? Are you still planning to continue to quibble and not cry until you see the coffin? After throwing out the final trump card, Qi Wen laughed inwardly, full of pride. Are you denying it? Are you making it up? Are you continuing to be stubborn? I wonder what else you can do now. You dare to go against the counselor and teacher. Do you really think you are supernatural? Now it's all right, General. Amid Qi Wang's happy eyes, on the stage, Jiang Xia glanced at Zhao Xiang, whose face was flushed and whose head was lowered like a child who had made a mistake, touched his nose, and suddenly slapped his forehead. Oops. Sorry, teachers. I was so nervous when I first entered the room that I put my graduation project in the wrong place. I apologize, I'm sorry. He grabbed the mouse and quickly clicked twice. The screen changed and another app style appeared. Jiang Xia grinned. Sorry, this is the thesis I'm defending. The one just now was a reference case I found on the internet. Below the stage, Qi Wang, who was already confident of victory and was about to call someone to take Jiang Xia away for interrogation, suddenly froze when he saw this scene. What? A bad premonition came to Qi Wang's mind, and the smile that Jiang Xia had given him in the corridor earlier suddenly emerged in his mind. Now that I think about it, there seems to be another layer of meaning hidden beneath that harmless smile, just like the smile of a trainer soothing his monkeys before the circus begins. Don't be afraid, just go on stage and perform, I have everything under control. Qi Wang's face suddenly turned ugly, and he shook his head subconsciously. No. Impossible. Could it be that this guy had already realized that this was a trap? Absolutely impossible. Chapter 26. The situation is reversed. As Jiang Xia began a new round of explanation, the old professor and another defense teacher looked at each other with shock on their faces. They had no idea what had happened in their class just now, and all their attention was drawn to the new graduation project that Jiang Xia had taken out. This new graduation project is more complete and complex than the one Jiang Xia just showed. It has completely exceeded the normal level of college students' graduation projects and is not inferior to the popular commercial apps on the market. 10 minutes later, Jiang Xia finished his talk. The old professor adjusted his glasses and asked a few key questions about the code. Jiang Xia answered fluently without any hesitation or pause. He responded to all the questions raised by the old professor in seconds, and every answer hit the point. After asking 5 or 6 questions in a row, the old professor said with a complicated expression, I didn't expect that there would be a computer graduate from our school who could reach this level. How come I have never heard of your name before? Jiang Xia smiled modestly, I am a student of limited talent and knowledge, and I dare not be arrogant. This level is nothing. The old professor nodded and said with satisfaction, it's rare to have the ability and not be arrogant. He looked at Qi Wen beside him and said calmly, Teacher Qi, do you have any other questions? Qi Wen had completely collapsed at this time. Who am I? Where am I? Why does this guy have a second graduation project? Was he prepared? At some point, the news leaked out. Could it be that Zhao Xiang and this kid were in cahoots with each other and deliberately staged such a scene? Qi Wen turned his head to look at Zhao Xiang, then shook his head. Zhao Xiang's expression was even more surprised than his. His mouth was wide open enough for an egg to fit in. It was obvious that he was unaware that Jiang Xia had a second graduation project. Besides, he had no reason and no courage to side with Jiang Xia. So, this guy guessed it himself. Qi Wen felt as uncomfortable as if he had eaten a fly. He thought he was going to win, but unexpectedly the situation turned around at the last moment and this kid managed to escape. He no longer doubted the origin of Jiang Xia's second graduation project. Judging from the fluency with which Jiang Xia answered the old professor's questions, even if this new graduation project was also done by someone else, he could not find any evidence. Failed, there is no doubt that this plan failed completely. As soon as the defense was over, he and Hu Shui no longer had the chance to prevent Jiang Xia from graduating. This kid had played a trick on him and Hu Shui and was able to get away with it. It would be a joke if anyone told others about it. Qi Wen lowered his head silently, said nothing, and sat back in his chair. Seeing his expression, the old professor stopped talking and smiled kindly at Jiang Xia, saying, "Well, classmate, congratulations, you passed the defense." Before he finished speaking, Jiang Xia suddenly said, "Wait a minute, I have a few more questions for Teacher Qi, could you give me some time?" The old professor was slightly startled, then nodded. After getting permission, Jiang Xia turned his gaze to Qi Wang, raised the corners of his lips, and asked, "Teacher Qi, you just said that I asked someone to do the graduation project for me. I want to ask, where did you hear this news?" Qi Wang raised his head and looked at him, then he pulled the corners of his mouth and said with a fake smile, "I misunderstood." "No, you didn't misunderstand me. I'm just curious, who told you?" Jiang Xia turned his head to look at Zhao Xiang, and when Zhao Xiang met his gaze, he immediately lowered his head guiltily. Could it be this classmate Zhao Xiang? Qi Wang didn't want to continue to tangle with him at this time, and said with a stern face, "So what? Since you are just using the graduation project as a reference, there is no problem. Your defense is over, and there are many students waiting outside. Don't take up everyone's time, get out quickly." Jiang Xia's feet seemed to be rooted to the podium, not moving at all, and he continued to speak calmly, "So that's how it is. But I'm still very curious. It's not strange that Zhao Xiang knew I bought the program from someone else. What's strange is why he came to you, Teacher Qi, to report it. What's wrong with looking for me?" Qi Wen had a bad feeling in his heart. What tricks was this kid trying to play? Jiang Xia smiled, a bright smile. "Of course not. Teacher Qi, you are not the teacher of our major. As far as I know, Zhao Xiang and you have no connection. Even if he wants to report me, he should find a teacher he is familiar with, such as a counselor. Instead of finding you, a stranger he has never met." Qi Wang's mouth twitched. He really had no way to refute what was said. He certainly didn't report it to me directly. I only found out about it from your counselor." "Oh tilde, so I learned about it from our counselor." Jiang Xia turned his gaze to Zhao Xiang, and his tone suddenly became stern. "Zhao Xiang, let me ask you, how did you report me to Hu Shui? Did you go to her office, or did you contact her online? What day and time did you report me? Think it over before you answer. If it was in the office, the surveillance video would have captured you." Zhao Xiang was already frightened out of his wits, and answered in a daze, "Yes, it was on the internet." "Online? Well, show me the chat history between you and Hu Shui." Zhao Xiang's eyes turned quickly. "No, there is no chat record. I told her over the phone." Jiang Xia smiled coldly, grabbed the mouse and operated it twice, and suddenly a screenshot of the call record of a certain number appeared on the big screen. From April 20th to 24th, you and Hu Shui had a total of 7 phone calls. Which one did you report me to her? R. Zhao Xiang stared blankly at the big screen, his brain froze for a moment, and he didn't react to why the screenshots of his call records appeared in Jiang Xia's computer. On the other side, after Qi Wen saw the call records, his face changed drastically. He subconsciously stood up and stopped Jiang Xia from questioning and kicked Jiang Xia out of the classroom. Bang! Jiang Xia slammed his fist on the podium. The loud noise shocked the 3 teachers, Zhao Xiang and many students watching outside the window. He pointed at the big screen and said sternly, "Since you can't remember, I'll tell you. The answer is no, you're lying. You never reported me to Hu Shui, because the whole thing was a conspiracy planned by Hu Shui from beginning to end. These call records between you and her are nothing more than her trying to persuade you to help her. She tricked me into buying a program online as my graduation project, so that she could frame me and prevent me from graduating." Under the podium, Qi Wang's face was furious, like an angry lion. He slammed the table and interrupted, "Enough. I don't allow you to slander a teacher in public in the classroom, stop it." Jiang Xia turned his head and glared at him, his eyes like a torch. "Why don't you let me speak? Are you hiding something, afraid that I will expose your affair with Hu Shui? It's too late. Even if you block my mouth now, I will let everyone know the truth of this matter. Let everyone see the true face of you and Hu Shui, and make you pay the price for your actions." Chapter 27 The Dust Settles. At the side, the old professor raised his hand and signaled, "It's okay, you continue." Jiang Xia held the mouse and clicked again, and the screen image turned into a 9-square grid made up of chat records. He pointed at the screen and sneered, "You said I slandered Hu Shui. Then what is this?" Everyone present looked up and soon their faces turned strange. The recipient of the chat record in the picture is marked as Hu Shui. Needless to say, who else could the sender be but Zhao Xiang? "Hu Shui, have you done what you were asked to do?" Zhao Xiang, "Not yet." "Hu Shui, how long are you going to procrastinate? Do you still want the spot for outstanding graduates?" Zhao Xiang, "But instructor, Jiang Xia and I are not familiar with each other." Zhao Xiang, "Would it be a bit strange for me to go to him suddenly like this?" "Hu Shui, stop talking nonsense to me and figure it out yourself." "Hu Shui, why hasn't he added it yet?" Zhao Xiang, "I was just about to tell him." "Hu Shui, hurry up." "Hu Shui, if you can't get things done, don't even think about graduating, let alone being an outstanding graduate." Zhao Xiang, "Counselor, I've transferred teacher Chi's account to you." "Hu Shui, yes." "Hu Shui, from now on, shut your mouth." "Hu Shui, don't mention this to anyone." "Hu Shui, if others know about this, you will have to consider the consequences yourself." Zhao Xiang, "Got it. Counselor, that outstanding graduate." "Hu Shui, don't worry, I'm working on it." The chat record is not long, but it is enough for people to roughly understand what happened. Hu Shui approached Zhao Xiang and asked him to pass their teacher Qi account to Jiang Xia, and promised to reward him with a quota for outstanding graduates. As for the purpose of promoting this account, everyone has their own guesses. Looking at Qi Wang, whose face was livid, Jiang Xia smiled sarcastically. "Teacher Qi, their teacher Qi in this chat record, could it be you?" Qi Wang's face was grim, and he said sternly, "Don't talk nonsense. I don't know what's going on with this chat record." Jiang Xia laughed and said sarcastically, "You still want to be stubborn? You won't cry until you see the coffin, right? The only teacher in our college with the last name Qi is you." He turned his head sharply and looked at Zhao Xiang. "Zhao Xiang, tell me yourself. Is this teacher Qi you are talking about, Qi Wang?" Thump. Zhao Xiang trembled all over, his legs went limp, and he actually fell to the ground, his face pale as he said, It's him, it's none of my business, I was forced to do it. I really didn't mean to hurt you." When Qi Wang heard Zhao Xiang pointing at him, he felt a tightness in his chest and almost vomited blood. This pig teammate. How could he admit it? At this point, if he flatly denied it and insisted that he knew nothing, there would still be a chance for things to turn around. If he admitted it now, wouldn't everything be over? How could Hu Shui find such a cowardly guy to get involved? What a sin! At this point, the matter has been settled. With call records and chat screenshots as evidence, plus Zhao Xiang's own admission, Hu Shui and Qi Wen have no way to escape. However, in order to prevent Hu Shui's relative, the vice president, from intervening and suppressing the matter, Jiang Xia had to add fuel to the fire. He quietly turned off their hidden camera that had been on since he entered the classroom, and the recorded video was automatically saved into a file. The counselor colluded with the defense teacher to frame the students. This shocking scandal has occurred. I believe the school will definitely send someone to investigate the matter and give us students an explanation. After packing up his computer equipment, Jiang Xia put on his school bag and bowed deeply to the old professor and another teacher. "Thank you both teachers for giving me your time. My defense is now officially over." "Thank you." The classroom was dead silent. Qi Wang had a gloomy face and no one knew what he was thinking. Occasionally, he would glare at Zhao Xiang with murderous eyes. Zhao Xiang was completely frightened and sat slumped beside the podium with a deathly pale face. The old professor looked at Jiang Xia with complicated eyes, and hesitated for a few times before sighing, "Alas. I will report this matter to the school, you can go back with peace of mind. For something like this to happen, I also want to say sorry to you on behalf of the teaching staff." Jiang Xia smiled slightly, turned around and strode out of the classroom. In the corridor outside, a large number of onlookers had gathered at some point, and everyone was amazed at Jiang Xia's graceful departure. "Awesome. So cool." He angrily scolded the teacher during the defense and exposed the conspiracy. Even TV dramas don't dare to show it like this. Today's scene is bound to be recorded in the history of Yarn University. This guy Jiang Xia made such a big fuss right before graduation. Is this the legend that I am still here even though I am no longer in the martial arts world? After leaving the teaching building, Jiang Xia went straight to the peninsular courtyard. When he got home, he took out his laptop, turned the camera on himself, and waved hello. Hi everyone, I'm here again. I don't know if you remember that a month ago, I posted a video exposing an incident in which a counselor at Yancheng University, where I was studying, openly cut in line in the cafeteria. Now, there is new progress in this matter. Perhaps because she felt that my exposure had brought shame upon her, our dear counselor who, instead of repenting after receiving the suspension from the school, became even more ruthless and thought of a way to retaliate against me. After recounting the entire incident from beginning to end, Jiang Xia, as usual, posted censored screenshots of call and chat records, as well as a video of the defense process, at the end of the video. Then, he posted the video on his Douyin account and Weibo account. After the queue jumping incident was exposed, his Douyin fans have exceeded 5,000. Not long after the video was posted, it caused an uproar and the comment section exploded. Fuck. Big melon. This video is so exciting. It's just an undergraduate thesis defense, but it made my blood boil. It's even more exciting than Family Man 10! He even has a twist, it makes me cry. Is this definitely not a script? Support it. Send this counselor and defense teacher to the hot search. If they don't leave, everyone here will be responsible. Am I the only one who thinks that the student surnamed Zhao is unlucky? Looking at the large number of comments that emerged in a blowout manner, Jiang Xia curled up the corners of his mouth and was in a good mood. If nothing unexpected happens, Hu Shui is definitely finished this time. Originally he was having a headache about how to completely kick Hu Shui out of the teaching staff and complete the system task. Unexpectedly, Hu Shui came to him on her own initiative, giving him a chance to launch a fatal blow. This was really thoughtful of him. Cutting in line is a small matter, but framing students and attempting to expel them through sting enforcement is a big deal. As long as the incident becomes heated enough, this time, even if Hu Shui's relative, the vice president, comes forward in person, he will not be able to save her.